hear from?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Speaking to,
Welcome
yeah,
to
that's
our
great.
January 27th, 2026 Board of Education meeting. May I ask everyone to please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just housekeeping item. As part of our ongoing commitment to inclusive community engagement, those joining virtually can now email questions and comments to SWR BOE Meeting at k12.newyork.us for inclusion during our second public comment period. Residents wishing to make comments or raise questions shall sign up with our district clerk and state their name, address, and topic. To allow for public participation, a period of not exceeding 30 minutes shall be set aside during the first part of each public board meeting for comment or on relevant items to tonight's meeting agenda. A second 30-minute time period will be set aside at the end of each board meeting for public comment on matters pertaining to the district, but not on the agenda. These periods may be extended by a majority vote by the board. Public discussion is prohibited on matters related to staff or students in which their reputation, privacy, or rights to due process, or the rights of others to due process could in some way be violated. All comments should be directed to the board president. The board president may choose to respond to these comments or refer them to the superintendent or other board members for reply or for consideration and later response. All comments should be respectful, non-defamatory, and should maintain a level of decorum appropriate for a meeting of a public body. First up tonight is our approval of our agenda. May I get a motion, please? Katie, second. Megan, any discussion or questions on tonight's agenda? All in favor? 6-0. Next up, we have our superintendent's report. Mr. Poole.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. For the first part of my report, as usual, I'm going to turn it over to our ex officio students who are tonight, Riley, Gianna, and Ray.
Hello, just wanted to talk about our college's progress so far. I have applied to more than 20 colleges all through regular decisions, so I expect to receive most of my decisions in March or early April. Throughout the process, I have been supported by my teachers, Ms. Schaefer and Mr. Berry, who wrote my recommendation letters, as well as Dr. Elizabeth Ann Ricard from Brookhaven National Lab, who mentored me during my research experience. I'm mainly applying to colleges with strong science and pre-health programs because I plan to pursue medicine, and so far I have heard back from one school, Binghamton University, and I have been accepted.
Congratulations.
I applied to 10 schools through early action, and I'm planning on majoring in nursing. I'm waiting to hear back from 2 more schools, but I've gone into 7 out of 8 of the schools I've heard back from, making Clemson University, The Ohio State University, and the University of Tennessee Knoxville my top choices at the moment. I've been supported by Mr. Malvagno and Dr. Neff as they wrote my recommendation letters, and my family and friends if I go through this process.
Ooh, sorry. I'm Riley, and I have applied to 17 schools, 10 of which were early action and 7 were regular decision. So far, I have gone through every emotion of being accepted, deferred, and rejected. Depending on the school, I'm either majoring in international business or English, both of which on a pre-law track with a minor in Spanish. My top school, University of Maryland, comes back this Saturday, so please wish me luck. I have been supported by Ms. Gilroy, Mr. Malvagno, and Mr. Poole with outstanding letters of recommendation, so to them I am very grateful. My family and friends have also been incredible backbones during this arduous process, so I'm thankful for them as well.
Good luck. That's great.
Thank you. Today,
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Today marked the beginning of the 3rd quarter, and congratulations to the SWR Wildcat varsity cheerleaders on an incredible first place win on January 24th. The team leaves Wednesday morning for Disney World in Orlando to compete at the NHSCC through UCA.
In wrestling, congratulations to the SWR team for earning a bid to the New York State Dual Championship. They compete on Saturday, January 31st. Congratulations to freshman wrestler Shane Cohen on securing 100 career wins and junior Gavin Mangano for getting his 200th win. Congratulations to the girls varsity basketball team for winning their game on Saturday. They are now 14-1. Both boys and girls varsity basketball are working their way on earning a bid to the postseason.
Building on the momentum of a great early winter season, middle school late winter sports start today, and best of luck to all the teams as they begin their first day of practice and competition. Congratulations to the robotics team for reaching the semifinals of the JFK VEX Robotics Qualifier last Saturday. And this Thursday and Friday, the high school guidance department will be meeting with students during the extended home-based periods to review the scheduling process for the 2026 to 2027 school year. Starting Monday, February 2nd, the counselors will begin their individual meetings with the students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you very much, ex officio student members. Just a note that probably got a Parent Square post to everyone from Mr. Meinster that the assemblies scheduled with Dr. Kaplan related to a healthy digital footprint and healthy online behavior, safe online behavior have been rescheduled for Friday, February 6th. Okay. Just a few other happenings around the school district. Over at the middle school, I want to give just an amazing congratulations to the students and teachers that put on Seussical the musical. I was just astounded by the quality of the show, the set, the direction, the singing. The time went by really quick. Very, very amazed and glad I was able to attend. And so congratulations to all of them. I'm hoping to get a couple of the lead students here to sing one of the songs. That was really well done. And our theater program, I think, is second to none. And Riley's been a big part of our theater program as well, making it second to none. Before I forget, I want to give a shout out to the wrestling team. They have absolutely earned that spot at the state championship level. It was an exciting match on Saturday. Wrestling's very exciting when it's a close score and it gets to the very end. So it was a great match, and congratulations to them as they move on to the states. Over at Wading River, the famous SRO is well underway. There will be 2 performances this week on Wednesday and Thursday. The play is Finding Nemo Jr., so looking forward to that happening this week. Our 3rd graders will be continuing their learning about science as they will be exploring the Brookhaven National Lab Science Center coming up this week for a hands-on enriching field trip. Over at Miller Avenue, our students have been participating in a K-2 bowling unit during physical education classes. So in addition to basic bowling skills, the unit fosters patience, perseverance, and positive peer encouragement. And just a reminder to everyone that kindergarten registration is open. If you have a neighbor who has a young student to register, the more students that register in advance of us setting up classes, the easier it is for us to plan for the next school year and not to make any sudden changes over the summer. Just a quick note, the state comptroller released an update on districts' fiscal statuses. Once again, the Shoreham-Wading River Central School District had a fiscal stress score of 0, which is the highest designation for fiscal stability. So thank our entire business department and staff for that. That does include things like environmental factors, such as the passage rate for the budget, fund balance, teacher turnover rate, percentages of populations in the school district, and items like that.
So if I may, Jerry, just Mr. Okiri, thank you. You should, you and your team, thank you for all you guys do. That's amazing, Jerry. So
Yes.
thank you.
Lots of fiscal pressures these days, so it's
There
good to hear that. So tonight on the agenda, we have our Jones Lang LaSalle Associates here to give an update on the Briarcliff property, and Mr. Meinster with some recommendations from the Curriculum Development Council for the board's consideration for changes to the course catalog for next year.
Absolutely.
Right, yes. Yeah, sure.
So I just want to add to, we have Miss Nancy Kaplan and her team that are going to be providing those presentations tomorrow and Thursday at the middle school. And as Mr. Poole indicated, next Friday is the rescheduled date for Wading River and for the high school. But I also do want to remind parents that we are offering a parent workshop from Nancy that will take place via webinar this coming Monday night. It will run from 7 to 7:45. The reminder was sent out. There is a Zoom invitation that is included with that. I would strongly encourage anyone interested to please join that. The presentation is The Power of Language, Words Matter. And it is an interactive workshop, so Dr. Kaplan has asked that anybody coming please participate in that. It is really best when done as a give and take. So again, strongly encourage any parent that is looking to understand what it is that we're working with our kids on and how they can support their children with regard to that. to join us for that webinar this coming Monday at 7. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And that concludes my
You have to wait
my
for that.
report.
Wait
Yes.
for that. I
Thank
wait for
you.
that signal, and that concludes his report.
That
We'll
concludes
vote.
my report.
So, did want to start out on some additional positive news tonight. So, for the community at large, tonight's agenda will include a new agreement with our teachers union. We appreciate the time and collaborative effort dedicated to reaching this agreement. On behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to borrow from my comments that I delivered in the first day of school to remind our teachers of our gratitude for your work and the dedication that you bring to our school district, to our students and our community. Each of you demonstrates through your daily efforts that you understand the positive impact and lifelong impacts that you provide to your students and you have on your students. Thank you for contributing positively to our students' day. On behalf of the Shoreham-Wading River Board of Education, the entire Shoreham-Wading River community, your efforts do not go unnoticed, and we are grateful for all that you do. We look forward to continuing to work alongside you and providing excellence in education to all SWR students, so thank you. Next up, I have statements, actually, that was under our, forget what I just said, that was under opportunity for board members. Let me open it up to the board. I know there's been some committee meetings and some activities. Let me see if any board members want to share anything with the community, please.
Sure.
Thanks, Mike.
I had the pleasure to serve on the athletic committee with our athletic director, Ms. Deb Ferry. I appreciate you taking the time to work with us to revise some of our policies. Currently, we are reviewing and updating the existing code of conduct to better define expectations around sportsmanship, behavior at games and practices, communication with coaches and officials, and accountability for violations. The goal is to ensure expectations are clear, consistent, and aligned with the values of the district. We also reviewing coach expectations to reinforce standards related to professionalism, communication, athlete safety, and role modeling. This includes clearer guidance on interactions with students and parents, as well as alignment with district policies and the athletic department. I think we've met 3 times, probably one more meeting, and then I think the policy update will go to the board for review. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lockhart?
Yeah, so I have 2 committee updates. Curriculum Development Committee met on January 8th to review instructional initiatives and program updates, including the 2026-27 high school course offerings and CTE programming, student digital portfolios, K-12 literacy practices, multi-tiered systems of support development, secondary grading practices, financial literacy, and the district's approach to supporting appropriate use of generative AI. The committee also received updates from the STEM, humanities, and special education departments. Students Eve Calvert and Riley Murphy presented their digital portfolios, offering a super strong example of how students are reflecting on their learning and demonstrating portrait of a graduate skills. So thank you to them. Also, the audit committee met January 15th. We reviewed and accepted the district's 2024-25 claims audit. Over 4,100 claims were reviewed, with a very small number of routine, non-alarming observations typical of school districts. No significant issues or concerns were identified. The committee received an overview of the upcoming external audit, which provides independent assurance that the district's financial statements are accurate and compliant. And the district has had no audit findings in each of the past 2 years, reflecting strong fiscal controls and oversight.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Anyone else want to share any updates? Very good. We're going to continue forward with our meeting. So, Ms. Kershus, do we have anyone signed up to speak on agenda items?
Yes, we do. Mr. Dan McGuire, can you please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record? And he will be interested in discussing the high school catalog.
Okay, sure.
Good evening. How are we doing?
Mr. McGuire.
Good, and yourself? Shoreham. I'm from Shoreham, obviously. So I wanted to talk about the course catalog. I sent a letter to the district regarding that, and I'm sure you saw that. I'm not sure if you got to see it, review it or not. But I do have concerns about the calculus class, the fact that the district is going to be offering AP Calc and now Calc for students next year. By not offering Calc and only offering AP Calc to kids, you're putting a lot of kids at disadvantage, actually. Even if you would allow those kids that would go into regular Calc go into AP Calc, you're going to present a big gap in learning for some of those children. And I would highly ask the district to please reconsider those offerings. I'll go further to give you some background on this a little bit more. My son, who recently graduated from Shoreham a couple of years ago, who took AP Calc in Shoreham-Wading River, subsequently went to Binghamton University. He took Calc 2 up there his first year up at Binghamton, okay? After taking the class and being in the class, he was advised that he shouldn't have taken Calc 2, he should have took Calc 1 again, okay? And he did well at the class at the end. He still got an A in the class. However, there were a lot of gaps. And Liam, my oldest, who is a great student in high school and is a good student in college, went up, like I said, went into Binghamton, even after going through their program up there, struggled with it because not that he didn't put his effort in or he wasn't prepared for it based on what he learned. The difference in the two classes are significant. So now you're taking other kids that may go into Calc and you're going to put them in an AP Calc or not even offer it. I said you're going to widen that gap. It's no different than taking kids in 8th grade, putting them in accelerated math, in a math class at the 8th grade level, that's typically a high school class, that they're not ready for it. You're creating gaps in learning. And you may think it's going to move those kids along faster to like the curriculum, but you're actually long-term, you're going to hurt those kids because they're going to be missing content, and as they get older, there's going to be more gaps in learning. So you can take a kid that might eventually become that math student, that good math student, and you could actually discourage them down the road because it's developmentally. It's developmentally inappropriate for some kids. So I'm not sure who the board's getting this advice from, but I would kindly ask the board to go back and have a conversation and revisit this area to see if there's some way at least we can offer one section of the calc for class, the kids, as long as there's enough enrollment, and give it that time to see if kids are actually going to enroll in the class. If you only get 4 kids who are enrolling in the class, I would get it if you don't offer it. But I could guarantee you probably open that class and you get 10 to 15 kids that opportunity to take the calc class and not just an AP calc. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. McGuire. May I ask you one clarifying question?
Yes.
When you mentioned gap, I'm a little confused. Are you saying that there's a gap to put a child into the AP? Because I remember you
What I'm
talking
saying is if I'll use, because it's common, in middle school you have 8th grade math and then you have
Yes.
algebra. If you put kids into an algebra class that's not ready for it and they really should be in an 8th grade class room, they may be missing certain concepts. And in a lot of schools, those concepts may be solving equations, right? And they won't get exposed as much to that concept as they should, okay? And then as they move on in their career, that's just gonna make it more of a struggle for them.
Understood. All right, I wanted to understand that. Thank you
No,
for sharing.
that's fine.
that. Thanks for sharing.
I
those
apologize, I'm a little cold here tonight. Thank
No,
you.
it's okay, thank you. Ms. Kirschus, anyone else?
No, that's it, thank you.
Just one other detail, Mr. McGuire. Tonight, you'll appreciate, we have Mr. Meinster going to talk about the curriculum, specifically around the course catalog tonight. So we'll hear an update from him in a little while. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, I'm going to continue forward with our agenda tonight. I'm going to jump right down to personnel. May I get a motion for tonight's personnel, please? Katie, second Henry. Any discussion on tonight's personnel? All in favor? 6-0. I want to, go ahead, Jerry. Yeah, I do, I absolutely do, yeah. So I just wanted to add something real quick, just on did we have one that was prepared, Jerry? I thought we did, right? I don't think I received that. So 2 things, yeah, I just wanted, sorry guys, I thought I had a statement from Ms. Ferry, this is just my own. Did I have one from Ms. Ferry?
I do have a little more.
Sorry. I wanted to read something aloud that I thought I had received, and I'm unprepared for class right now, so 1 moment, please.
No worries.
With all these papers, you'd think I'd have the paper I need in front of me. Hold on 1 second. Thank you. Okay. So tonight, I want to recognize, on part of our appointments tonight, we have 2 coaches here in attendance. I'd like to welcome them both to the Shoreham-Wading River family, to the Wildcat Country. First, we have Paul Longo, who's going to be our head football coach. Welcome, Paul. And we have Mr. Robert De Silva, who's our inaugural varsity girls flag football coach. Welcome. And fun fact, in the audience tonight, we have one of our students, Shaylin Barbero. I always do that wrong. Shaylin, why don't you stand up for us real quick? The reason why Shaylin is here and the reason why, Mr. De Silva, you're here is because of her request to the Board of Education last year to consider and create a flag football team for us here at Shoreham-Wading River. So thank you, Shaylin, for that suggestion. It's led to this community involvement, and the outcome is in our appointing of a coach tonight. So thank you for that. Great job. And I hope you're going to sign up to play this spring. And just on a personal note, Mr. Longo knows this. It was a great pleasure that I welcome you tonight. Coach Longo, to the Shoreham-Wading River community, I want to express my appreciation. Growing up in Holbrook, Mr. Longo was a coach for me when I was a child. When I was much younger in my days, and he was much younger in his days. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here for our student athletes. They'll benefit from your coaching talent and all your accomplishments, commitment to our football program, and wishing you much success ahead. So thank you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate that. I think we're going to take a pause for a moment to do a quick photo op.
Yeah,
We'll
great.
do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah,
Why don't you do that? Ms. Ferry, why don't you join in with them, please? Next up will be Jones, Lang, LaSalle for an update on our Briarcliff property. I'd like to invite up Mr. Ray Ruiz, Ms. Marianne Dugan, and Mr. John Nielsen. Thank you. Yep. Feel free to take the mic.
You want this seat?
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Mr.
Thank you very
Ruiz.
much. Appreciate it. I know we have a limited time, so we'll get right to it.
Yes, thank you.
So we were excited this time last year to have the opportunity to work on behalf of the school district to dispose of the Briarcliff School. Immediately, our goal was to twofold. One, get right into the market and try and find what otherwise was a like-kind user. It makes sense. Someone who could use the building and say, it's great, I love it, and it would be somebody who wouldn't compete and or distract from the school's current programs. In addition, we also look to create a relationship and communication with the Village of Shoreham, which is in their jurisdiction for what can and can't be done. In that period of time, we met with mayors, Mayor Spear, trustees, and local stakeholders, people who live in the area who have a big voice. And there's a belief that it could be a residential subdivision or some residential project as well. And so, you know, we are hitting all avenues. We're going for organizations that could use it, and we're reaching out to developers. And up until recently, this time, we're now moving into a campaign of a potential Preservation Act to the Nature Conservancy, Peconic Land Trust. We've reached and spoken with county representatives about the possibility of the county buying it and/or the town of Brookhaven. So these are all new opportunities. We're going to talk about how we go about marketing the property and who we're reaching out to. Marianne Dugan, who works as my partner on the team, she's the team's quality control personnel. She's going to come up and talk about how we go about and market these properties on every level, which we all know, when people see real estate today. And then we have John Nielsen, who will wrap up with, who we're actually going for specifically and moving forward what we intend to do. Any questions? Does anybody have any questions?
I'll let you
No?
keep your
All good?
presentation going. Yep,
Marianne
thank you.
Dugan?
Okay, thank you for having us. Our marketing strategy combines a targeted digital outreach, traditional marketing, and direct stakeholder engagement. Digitally, we are leveraging paid social media on Instagram, for example, LinkedIn, and various social sites, premium real estate platforms, a dedicated property website, and professional networks to reach qualified developers and investors. This is supported by traditional outreach through direct mail and select print advertising. In parallel, we are engaging key stakeholders through meetings with village leadership, community outreach, and activation of JLL's national developer and investor network to ensure a broad, credible exposure. Up on the board is an image of our marketing collateral that we send out. On the back, there's actually our Instagram account and a QR code if you'd like to follow us. We have some with us tonight if you'd like to take a look after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So in closing, as we head into 2026, we've structured our prospect outreach into 3 strategic buckets. First and foremost, the commercial and institutional users that Ray mentioned initially when we first got into the market. These include academic institutions, educational users, as well as healthcare adjacent users. Secondarily, based on our conversations with the village and other municipalities, we're now targeting residential developers ranging from family offices, local, smaller, mid-sized development corporations, and individual contractors who have a history of delivering these projects. And that third bucket is the conservatory portion that Ray mentioned earlier, ongoing conversations with the county, Peconic Land Preservation, and those types of entities. So those are really the 3 buckets that we are structuring our prospect outreach as we head into 2026. And I think any questions we can answer.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's a good overview. I did have a few questions for you to help us with.
Sure.
So it sounds like you've had the opportunity to visit with the village of Shoreham.
Right.
Can you share with us some of the thoughts on those meetings, what they contained,
Sure.
what you spoke about?
Sure. So one of the things that they're looking for is something which you could imagine if you lived in the area, is something low impact that wouldn't necessarily change the landscape of the community. So while they've envisioned a residential project, they do not envision condos. We had plenty of multifamily, as they call it, developers who are interested, and it's all about density. In fact, recently in the village of Port Jefferson, there was a project in a land parcel of similar size that recently sold to Beechwood, and it was 10 acres, and they got 79 units plus a clubhouse. I don't think, based on my meeting with Mayor Spear, that you'd even get half of that density. In fact, we did have one group that said, if I can get 36 units, I think we can sail home nicely, and it just doesn't appear that would happen. So I think they're looking for low-impact residential, single-family. We've had assisted living groups interested, you name it, all the developers. We have had every kind of group look at us, but it's going to come down to what the village believes they can have approved, and it's single-family residential. So I think that's really the sentiment as of recently, as a matter of fact.
Got it, that's helpful. So based on that, was there a discussion at all around tax receipts, just thinking about the use again? Because I know you just mentioned potentially the land preserve trusts versus a residential use versus, maybe I'll call it light commercial, maybe a doctor's
Sure,
office, I'm
sure.
just throwing it out there.
This is,
Sorry, Ray, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, I'm sorry, this is what I would say, is that they would like very much to see any entity that develops here be on the tax rolls, obviously creating a tax base for the village. I can't say at this point in time how that would translate as a respect to a land preservation situation, so we'd have to respond back at another time with that.
Got it, okay. So right now, this year, I guess, there's a new opportunity with land preservation. I think that's somewhat different from what we've heard in the past.
That's correct. I think that what happened was that it's a new year, it's a new budget. You know, the calls that I've been receiving from some of these entities is that the budgets are approved, there's money in the funds to acquire land and sites, et cetera. And so we're gonna run that process through and see, you know, how we can find out what is entailed. As a matter of fact, when I spoke to the county, they had said essentially they'll look at it and we would have to, the school district would have to provide a letter of interest and intent to sell. And then it goes, so we're trying to find out which each entity, what the process is and how the monies are funded, et cetera, and what the time frame is, of course.
Got it. So ultimately, really the concerns you really heard from them is anything that's higher commercial or higher density is really the concerns you've typically.
That is correct, that is
Okay.
correct. Buses, you know, even though it was a school, a lot of traffic. Traffic is oftentimes, you know, an issue, right?
Mhm.
So they're concerned about traffic, they're concerned about noise, you know, in some instances, whenever we had a project where it was healthcare, ambulance sounds, lights, things of that nature, right? So, once again, you know, envision any one of us living in and around the area, what would be concerned about if something was to be built. So that's sort of put yourself in the other person's shoes. That being said, our goal is to find the ideal scenario for the school district to monetize this asset.
Got it. Appreciate that. Is there anything or any information maybe the board can provide you at this point or assistance to help accelerate anything that's happening at this
No,
time?
I think it's been great. I will tell you that we've worked with other institutions, other school districts, and this board and Mr. Poole and Glenna Curry have been great. The information we've received is more than we oftentimes receive from even our institutional clients. So we thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Appreciate that.
And the accessibility. So if we ever have a question, everybody seems to be available, which is wonderful.
Very good. So no other recommendations, so we're in pretty good shape at this point. Just keep it word of mouth, advertising it, doing all that you're doing.
Wash, rinse, repeat,
Got it.
right? But I think, though, the next time we speak, we'll have more intel on this preservation situation, which could be, and we've done this before, a good situation for us, and we'll just have to see.
What's that timeline typically?
We don't know. What I will say is that in probably another 60 days, you know, we're going to create a report that'll tell you what each of these organizations need from us and the timelines, et cetera. So it's a whole other report, but we're happy to provide it.
Thank you, Mr. Ruiz. Does
All
anyone
right.
else on the board have any questions?
Questions?
Okay, just making sure.
Sure.
Not so much, thank you for your presentation, great presentation. I know you guys have been very active trying to find a buyer for us or a solution. More so a question for the administration. I know that, having been on here for about 9 years, we've been maintaining the building, you know, keeping it up. I look back at the building condition assessment from 2023, looked like everything, for the most part, is intact in the building. We're really no major issues with the building. Has anything come up since that last building condition assessment that we need to take care of? Because it looks like at this point, we've got the building, it's maintained. I know some of the concerns initially was, you know, the cost of maintaining it and all that. But at this point, I don't think there's anything major with that building, right?
Nothing immediate, but I'll let Mr. Arcuri discuss that a little bit with you.
One of the only concerns that we are challenged with is a small section of a roof under the fire escape area. We continue to patch it. That is the only area where there is water occasionally penetrating the building. Other than that, all systems are fully functional and operating well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing the update and wish you, again, good luck with everything that you're doing.
Mr. Curie, how often are we doing building checks? Do we check on the heat?
Daily. The building is completely walked, top level, down to the lower basement. There is a checklist that whoever is inspecting the building has to check off. And they are swiping in at their time of entry to the building, swiping out at their time of exit.
Thank you.
I'll just say that the building does have some use. Local law enforcement has used it repeatedly and quite a bit for training purposes. So happy to oblige and get some good public use out of it.
And sledding, right?
Yes.
And sledding.
And some sledding. Yes.
In light of the
And
current
sledding,
weather.
yep.
That's great. Very good. All right, thank you again. Next up in our reports and reviews, we have our high school catalog update, Mr. Alan Meinster and Mr. Frank Blasey.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us here tonight. As we are about to get started with the 26-27 high school scheduling process, as was mentioned earlier in the high school update from our ex officio students, we are wanting to just basically provide a last look at the recommendations for changes to the course book for this upcoming year, and the opportunity for the board to have any questions addressed related to them. Just in view of an overall summary, just recognizing and keeping in mind that there are several of the goals that are included within our 2025-2029 strategic plan that directly apply to the structure of planning for our programs, including the high school program. Those include 3 specific strategic plan goals: developing and implementing economies and efficiencies across all of our programs, exploring alternating year structures for courses that are aligned with demonstrated student enrollment and interest, and identifying efficiencies that maintain electives and other opportunities due to potential declining enrollment. As you are all aware, we are seeing declining enrollment across the high school now that has been working its way up through the grades over the last decade. And so that is part of what drove the discussion in our curriculum development committee to take a look at exactly, as the second one is where the starting point of that discussion was a look at all of the programs at the high school to start to have the conversations about where are we going with regard to our programs to ensure that we have the most robust and rigorous program available that suits the needs of our student body and the enrollment numbers that we currently have and are going to have going forward. So student enrollment data from the last several years were used to inform those discussions, and we took a look at those courses that had historically low enrollments. We do tend to try to look at any course that has an enrollment below 15 as a course that really is something that we need to consider carefully before moving forward with actually running those courses in the upcoming school year. We typically will look for courses that are not part of a pathway for students or that result in some opportunity for students to pick up college credit. Outside of those 2 criteria, we do look very carefully when classes, student interest drops below that 15 mark. And that is what kind of sparks the conversation about, with numbers that low, do we look at not offering a course? Do we look at moving a course to an alternating year format? What are the different possibilities, or do we go forward with keeping a course that we know is running historically low? So that is the conversation that took place at our curriculum development committee over the last several meetings this year. From those discussions and feedback from the teachers, parents, and administrators that are on that committee, as well as through administrative conversations, using that information gathered at those meetings, several updates to the course offering book were recommended. Those changes are intended to increase enrollment in all of the courses that would be in the book, to improve the likelihood that those courses will be able to run and will have the enrollments required to be able to move forward, both next year and going forward. So one of the adjustments that we took a look at closely were dual enrollment courses. Those are courses that have the ability for students to register with a college or university and obtain college credits from that college or university that they would then be able to use when they apply to and go to college. Starting in the upcoming school year, the district is no longer going to be affiliated with the Suffolk County Community College Beacon program. That is due to changes that Suffolk has made in their structure and the requirements that are in place that are needed for affiliation. For the most part, almost all of the Beacon courses that we were offering were offered for both dual enrollment from Suffolk, and most of them were also AP courses that students can still get college credit for by taking the AP exam that goes with that particular course. So for the most part, basically with no exception, all of the courses that currently were getting Beacon, the opportunity for Beacon credit, can either get AP credit or can get dual enrollment from an alternative university that we've partnered with in place of that.
Mr. Meister, can you take just 1 second to explain Beacon versus AP? for
I'm
those who are not knowing?
I'm wondering what the opportunity lost is.
So again, the only opportunity, the difference between the two, so 2 questions, I'll get both of them.
Yep, thank you.
First, Beacon is Suffolk County Community College's dual enrollment program. So when you take a course through Beacon, Suffolk Community College is issuing you credits on a transcript from Suffolk that a student can then use when they're applying to colleges. If they're taking it as an AP course, that's College Board offering AP course credit, and when a student takes the AP exam, typically a student getting a 3 or higher, most colleges will accept those credits as 3 college credits in that course. If you get a 3, most colleges will accept it for an elective credit. If you get a 4 or 5, it depends on the college or the university. In some cases, they'll accept it as an elective credit. In some cases, they will actually accept it as a credit that can be used toward that course at the college level and fulfill a requirement. So for example, if you get a 5 on the AP English language assessment, typically most colleges, not all, but most colleges will allow that to count as English 101, and the student can then go on to English 102 and not have to take that semester class. So obviously, that's a benefit to a
So the
student.
point I was making, I think that's when I'll ask Ms. Tepper. So Suffolk is Beacon, AP is kind of ubiquitous for colleges. Megan, was that where you were going?
Yeah, so I guess my question is are there any, I believe you answered this, but are there any courses that are covered under Beacon but not offered as AP in our current course offering?
Yes, there is one that now is going to be under LIU. So again,
Which is what? No, I'm sorry, miss, that's fine.
no, that one had no.
Oh, no, we're talking about the principles and practices of marketing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had our marketing class that was a Beacon class. It's now going to be given, still dual enrollment is available for students, but that would be through LIU. So we wanted to make sure that none of our students would lose out on the opportunity to get college credit for anything that they had when we were affiliated with Suffolk for Beacon.
So I think my question, is there any opportunity lost? It sounds like there is not.
No,
Okay,
there is
that's
none.
where I was going.
Right.
That's what I wanted to define.
Could I just ask a point of clarification? So in your experience, when, in the past, when someone did go through the Beacon credit, got credit for community college, if they were transferring to a 4-year school after, or a 4-year program at a different school, would that credit automatically be, not always, right?
There's no
Because
such
even
thing
then-
as automatic.
Okay,
Everything depends on the enrolling school.
whether they want to accept it or not.
Correct, and
Just
how
like a
they want
3
to
in
accept
an
it.
AP class, right? Same
Most
thing.
colleges will accept it at the very least as a elective credit. So, you know, if you took AP Bio.
Yeah, that's a
or if
detail
you
I
took,
wanted to hear you say.
Biology.
Okay.
And it was a Beacon course. You could use that in most colleges as a science elective, but not as a biology course to satisfy their intro to biology course. Certainly, and again, it depends on the school. If you're talking about a strong STEM school, they're not accepting any high school level dual enrollment or AP
Yeah, I
bio
had, I had the
course.
opposite of, I took AP European history, American history, I don't remember but they were good. And then I went to an engineering school, and they didn't accept them. So it was kind of
Not
like the
even as an
opposite.
elective?
It may have been as an elective,
Yeah, as
one
an
of them
elective,
at least.
probably.
So that's why I always look at that to this day, and I go, that's a nuance that
It
is
is.
important to talk about.
And that's something where the student should have that conversation with their guidance counselor, who would be able to be a little bit more school-specific and tell you which schools it would be that would likely take that, and which ones
good advice.
you may not
Yeah.
be, you know, likely to see that credit taken and count toward.
But there are some colleges that are accepting dual enrollment that you may not receive a 4 or 5 on an AP and can't get credit then, correct?
Say that
Maybe.
again?
So, I guess my question is, if I were signed up as a student for dual enrollment, also serving as an AP course, I would have to score a 5, depending on the university, right? Or some accept 3, many do not.
Right.
If I don't take the AP and I'm in dual enrolled, they're still accepting 3 credits.
And that is, again, that
Is that
depends on
true?
2 factors. One, what grade
They-
did you
they
get
may
from
be.
the university?
Okay.
And so when the teacher gives a grade at the end of the year, they have to submit to the university the final course grade, which, again, just like any other college course, A, B, C, D, F. If a student gets an A in their course, then it is, again, likely that that transcript, if if a school, if a college sees they got an A in marketing, they are likely to accept those credits, at the very least as an elective 3 credits. But again, even so, some colleges will, and it kind of, I would go to Henry's example there, if you're not a major in that area,
Right,
it's more likely that they will accept it to fulfill a basic requirement for a given subject.
okay.
Mr. Meisner, you don't mind,
Yes.
could you maybe just share a few of the new requirements from Suffolk? This is not something that
Oh, yeah.
this is
great
not something we wanted
No.
to
Yeah, I
do
didn't think so.
or change.
Yeah, right.
But what are some of the changes that Suffolk is asking for that make this a change?
You know, so some of the changes that Suffolk is looking for, one, they are looking for the teachers that so whenever there's a dual enrollment, our teachers become adjunct teachers for the school. That's how the school's able to issue credits. So our teachers become their teachers for the purpose of that course, which makes them subject to different rules. Suffolk has basically increased their requirements so that the teacher now has to have a master's degree in the subject area that they are looking to teach. Not just a master's in teaching, but specifically in that subject area. So if I'm teaching Beacon biology, I have to have a master's in biology, not a master's in education. Doesn't matter if I got my bachelor's in biology, that's not enough. Plus, they also added criteria of having the teacher from the school have to basically partner with a professor at the university and touch base on a periodic basis with that professor at a time to be determined by the university, which may very well fall outside of the school day and obviously may create contractual issues.
It doesn't sound even sustainable from a master's degree perspective, so it's not even about economies and efficiencies, right?
Correct.
It's just, yeah, we can't do it.
So we were able to pivot and
Yeah.
make sure that we still maintain that dual enrollment opportunity for our students, or that they have the ability to still get college credit through AP,
Okay.
through College Board.
Yeah, and our hands are tied.
So,
We can't do it.
one of the other things that we are making sure going forward in there is that students that are enrolling in AP courses who elect not to take the associated AP exam, they will receive honors weighting on their high school transcript for successful completion of the course. Because, again, the idea of an honors weighting goes with more rigorous coursework than what is considered to be standard. And obviously, students completing an AP level course, whether they take the exam or not, have completed rigorous coursework. And if they don't take the AP exam, they do not get the AP weighting, but they would get the honors weighting. Okay? Then I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Liesi.
Thank you, Mr. Meister, and thank you, everybody. So another piece that we looked at and directly aligned with the district strategic plan goal to encourage full scheduling by students. And by full, I mean maximizing the number of classes that they take each and every year. The minimum number of credit eligibility to be considered for marking period recognitions will be increased for the 26-27 school year from 4.5 to 6. So let me back up for a second and explain what that means. We have 3 different end of marking period recognitions that go out each quarter.
Yes.
We have our principals list, we have honor roll, and we have academic recognition. Each one has a different grade stratus. So the 4.5 credit-bearing classes, that's our minimum number of credits that you need to have in order to be enrolled basically as a full-time student. I felt that for academic recognition, you should certainly be above the minimum that you need just to be recognized as a student. So by moving from 4.5 to 6, we certainly hope that that encourages some students who are concerned about that additional recognition to possibly take an additional credit or a half credit in order to be eligible for those recognitions at the end of the marking periods. Again, it is above and beyond. It is not a requirement. There is no requirement for anyone to be recognized, but we wanted to see if this helps to move the needle a little bit in terms of encouraging students to take more classes, to look at options more thoroughly, to possibly take a class that they may not necessarily be interested and find that at times doing something you didn't know you liked is an opportunity to learn something new. So by moving in that direction, we hope that that does, in fact, help some kids to take a few more classes.
Mr. Puglisi, so Oh,
Go ahead, no,
do you find that to be the case at the higher grades?
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Okay.
This is
'Cause I would think in
primarily,
the early
this is
grades, you're
primarily
hitting
for
that
juniors
number.
and
Yeah.
seniors.
Okay.
And if, completely being honest, it's for seniors.
Yeah.
You know, speaking from my own experience, both as a teacher and as a coach, the idea of kind of ramping down right before you're ready to make a level jump
Right.
is really counterintuitive.
Of course.
And we really want to encourage our seniors, you know, not to, and I'm not suggesting that, you know, all of our students should be graduating, you know, with 36 credits from high school. That would be 9 credits per year, you know, every section, every day, every period. That's unrealistic, and that I don't think is healthy either. But certainly seniors, you know, speaking to those who have found it to be advantageous, or they believe it's advantageous, to come in a period or two late, leave a period or two early, maybe have a lunch or a study hall in between, and take only 4 or 5 classes plus their phys ed, generally find that a very difficult transition when they then get into the college that they did get into based on their work their junior year, and even, you know, maybe partially into their senior year. So this idea of kind of backing down to then have to ramp things up even more so, like I said, is counterintuitive, and we hope that this subtle shift from 4.5 credits to 6 will encourage students to do that specifically, you know, somewhat in their junior year, but more so in their senior year.
Sorry. Do you think that that might lead to, so with declining enrollment, right, I think the fear sometimes is we're going to have less electives. Do you think this will drive toward more enrollment, meaning that we'll at least be able to increase electives?
That's the hope.
Okay.
Or at the very least maintain.
Maintain.
At the very least maintain.
Has there been trending in terms, over the years, in terms of our seniors and the amount of courses that they're taking? Are we still truncating our day at the same rate that we have been?
It's been pretty consistent.
It has.
It's been pretty consistent. And again, I'm speaking in generalities. The vast majority of our seniors are doing the right thing. You know, they're taking either nearly full caseloads, or they're somewhere in that 6 to 7, you know, credit range. But there are a handful, like I said, who do take advantage. They come in late, they leave early, and they have some gaps in between. Again, I'm not going to judge and say that there aren't specific reasons for some students to be in that situation. There are always going to be exceptions. However, for the vast majority of our kids, we certainly feel like this is a way to encourage them, you know, because our kids do an incredible job. You step right out in the hallway over here and you see the number of students who qualify at the end of the marking period for those 3 different distinctions, and it's almost 80% of our students qualify for one of those 3 recognitions at the end of each marking period. That's exceptional. It really is. But we do feel like, especially, again, partially in the junior year, but more so in the senior year, again, if this moves the needle even a little bit, then I think it's worth it.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
So, do you think that rigor of the classes that they're taking will depend on this? Because there's a difference between being a senior taking 5 classes that are all APs and 5 classes that
Oh, of
are
course,
not.
of course. And I do believe that there are many options that are available to seniors where it is not a highly rigorous course. So yeah, I do think that there are plenty of options available.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think that was an excellent question. I think we have a lot of students who do challenge themselves with fewer courses, or have challenged themselves so greatly over the past several years that they maybe need a break emotionally, mentally, before going to college, and maybe saving up for college, maybe going to a job after school or things like that. So I don't know, I get a little,
Like I said,
I don't love this idea, but I understand the goal. I think it's a shared goal. I never like when we make it harder for our students to get the same recognitions that other students in other districts are getting with less criteria, and that's my primary concern. I want them to be able to continue to put that on their resume and not take it from them. Like, it's just,
So your concern is the second bullet?
helping
The
out.
Is
eligibility.
your point, like if there's a star up there, 5 AP courses, maybe that's a differentiator versus, is there a criteria you're thinking of, Mr. Palazzi, with this, or is it just credit count?
Just credit count,
Just credit count?
just
okay.
credit count.
I think this work is driven by the shared decision-making committee.
It is,
Yeah,
you're right. would agree.
to really get our seniors
Yeah.
to be more enrolled and stop truncating their day.
I think the data for seniors meeting the strategic plan objective, and I look forward to sharing the data from last year at an upcoming board meeting, is in the low 70s that students are meeting the strategic plan goal. I believe it's seniors at 6 credits, right?
Mhm.
And their other grades at 7. So most
Yes.
of the other grades are hitting the metric in the strategic plan, but seniors are, I believe, are in the low 70s
Yes.
that are taking at least 6 classes along the way. And that is a strategy to maintain or boost electives so that if, 4 more seniors take a class, then it runs, and the other kids have the opportunity to take a class they wanted to take.
I just have a general question. Would a change like this lead toward national blue ribbon accreditation in some way? Does this give us any more points in that direction? Because just to address Katie's comment, right, this is a situation where other districts may have less rigid requirements, right?
That program was ended by the federal government.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So-
Can I just get clarification in
So
the
much
spirit
for
of your
Ryan.
question? What was the intention behind your
So
question?
what I mean is, like, I'll use myself for example. I take 5 classes, not including gym. I leave after 7th period. 4 out of those 5 classes are APs. And, like, I'm a good student. I do well in all my classes. But because I'm only taking, 5.5 credits, will I not get my principal's list? Like, that's what I'm asking.
Under this proposal, yes, that would be the case. You would need to pick up an
An
additional
elective.
half credit.
Okay.
I just don't want to do it just to try to meet a strategic planning goal or, I don't know, enrollment. I'd rather run a class with less students in it, figure out how to make that happen in a different way. I don't know, that's just,
Understood.
Yeah, it's not about boosting the number of students in class to be able to allow us to run classes, because we can always make that decision separately from that. This is more about looking at 6 credits being, the bar that we had kind of looked at as saying, much to Mr. Pugliesi's point before, is that when students drop from having a full load as a junior to having a 4.5 or 5.5 load as a senior, it does in some ways make it more difficult to then jump back up to full speed when they start in college.
I mean, I think a lot of our students are going into college and taking a lot of 101 classes, including required Welcome to the University 101 class, and they're getting 12 to 15 credits put on their schedule, and they're much easier courses typically than they're used to here, and peppered in with their with a couple of courses toward their major. I just don't see that. I think our data shows that our students are really successful.
Yeah,
in
so what
their
I would
first year.
propose is we can go back, we'll take a look at the data to see just how many students wind up being in your situation, where we're looking at under 6, to see exactly what those kinds of schedules look like, and we could certainly look to revisit this. That one is a change that we do not have to again, this is for next year.
Right.
We can certainly, for this one, this is not part of the course offering book per se. So this is something that we can certainly look at, and if we do see that there's a significant number of students that have really challenging and rigorous coursework and are sitting at 5.5, to the point where it looks like when we look at the numbers, maybe we do this as a graded kind of a thing, where we go from 4.5 to 5.5 next year. But we'll take a look to see how many students are we dealing with that would genuinely be impacted, from who's currently on our principals list, honor roll, and academic achievement lists, to see what that is, because certainly you bring up a valid point. If there's, if there's strength of schedule, as it were, that needs to be looked at as a factor. We can certainly go back and look at the data and make a review of that, bring that back.
I'm a little bit torn over that because
I am
although
too.
I recognize what she's saying is really valid when you're taking 4 or 5 APs, the spirit of the conversation, the strategic planning was really about sustainability and students developing grit before they take on. I'm looking at a freshman year for my son next year, and it certainly has plenty of grit. So he needs to be at a full course load in order to, make sure that he's reading Lexile at a high rate and he has those hours of studying. And I think that is important, and that is kind of what I think drove that decision to include it in the strategic plan.
Yeah, and for 9th, 10th, and 11th, this is a no-brainer. It's the only issue is to take a look at the seniors.
Maybe there's a way to put it on a sliding scale where you look at AP courses
Right,
as,
the
yeah.
strength of schedule piece there, but it would
Yeah,
only
sure.
apply to me, in all complete honesty, it would only apply to seniors. Any exceptions, because for freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, 6 credits, if they're not taking 6 credits, then we need to be
Have other items.
seriously reflecting on the student schedule.
Okay,
So
all right.
this would be something where we could look at seniors only and see if there's something about strength of schedule that we would want to look at.
Okay.
That could put some kind of a caveat possible. But again, I want to just have a chance, Ms. Liaison and I will sit down and look at the data, see exactly how that impacts, would have impacted this year's class, to see what we might want to look at in terms of, is it a significant factor or isn't it? And then we can go from there. Okay. Okay, so, course offering changes for next year. We have several changes that are looking to be incorporated into the course book. The first of these is the addition of one new elective course that is entitled Introduction to Artificial Intelligence. Builds on the content that's provided in our digital literacy program. So students basically are getting some overview of AI practices in the digital literacy course, but those students that are really looking to go more in depth and to really start to look in terms of how artificial intelligence can be used to function in our workplace and society beyond just being used for school. That's what the course is really going to be designed around, and we'll be adding that as a half year, I think it's a half, yes, so half a credit every other day elective for next year. And then, again, as I mentioned at the onset, looking at the data from the last 5 years and course enrollments that actually took place in these courses, what we have found is that these are the courses that historically have had very low student enrollment throughout the course of the school year, each of the last 5 years. And it was from that data and then the conversations that took place that the recommendation has been made to remove these from the course offering book. In most of these cases, most of these courses would not run anyway. I do know that the question was raised about the non-AP calculus. I would point out that there is a difference between calculus and 8th grade math. The 8th grade math program is in place for our students that are remedial and are looking at struggling in the introductory high school math class, our Algebra 1 class, that is a requirement for graduation, as opposed to the calculus course, which is designed as an advanced course, is an elective, and also is designed for students that want that challenge in math when we have other math challenging courses that are available should a student decide that AP Calculus is not for them. Those are listed here. For example, we have college math is available to our seniors, advanced topics in math, which does include some of the content of calculus in it. Some of those foundational concepts of calculus are covered there. AP statistics, and of course the AP Calculus course itself are all available to our students as they come in. The same thing can be said for some of those other electives that we are looking to remove from the book. There are alternative courses that exist in our program for students that have interest in those areas. So fashion marketing is a course that we have not even run due to low enrollment over the last several years. Website design, also incredibly low enrollment. Also, website design is something that is now basically able to be incorporated within digital literacy and within the AP computer principles. Yeah. Course. And what? And the AI course as well. And the AI course. So again, it's not that these are being eliminated with no alternatives for students in similar different types of courses. All of them have opportunities. Spanish 1 in the high school was only there for students that we had in the past when the middle school was an 8-period day. There were issues with students that were exempt from foreign language and did not have an opportunity in middle school because of their special education requirements and their remedial course requirements that they needed. They just didn't have room in an 8-period day for a foreign language. Now that we've moved to a 9-period day at the middle school, that opportunity is there for those students that want it. And so we are looking to remove the Spanish 1 from the high school effective next year. And again, Wall Street has many alternatives within our business program that will provide opportunities for students to get that experience, including our financial literacy course.
Was that a popular class with Wall Street?
No.
Remember oh. Okay.
Again, that's what I'm saying. Wall Street was all over the place. So there have been years where Wall Street had decent numbers. There were years where it dropped off, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the last couple of years it's really been low. Yeah.
Single digits.
And again, it's because there are alternative courses in our business pathway that students have been flocking to instead. Again, this is all designed around the data that basically shows which courses our students just aren't showing an interest in, and an acknowledgement of the alternative coursework that is available that they could do for challenge in those same areas.
Is it,
Math, a very basic math class?
is it possible to get,
Excuse me one second, I'm sorry, Mr. McGuire, you can't speak out of turn. You're not allowed to comment during a public meeting, I'm sorry.
is it possible, I appreciate your explanation, it makes a lot of sense to me, especially the Spanish 1. Is it possible to get these 5 courses and the enrollment over the last 3 years or so, and then the alternatives that are there? Yeah, and I just have one additional question about the non-AP. Are there surrounding districts that have successfully absorbed non-AP calculus into AP calculus and made changes to almost teach a dual course inside of one?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah, we could certainly survey and reach out to some of our colleagues.
I'm not suggesting it, it's not.
It's easy enough to ask, we can certainly do that, to find out, but, you know, in looking at the last 5 years of the non-AP calculus.
Sure.
We've only had 1 year in the last 5 where we had more than 15 kids take the course. Most of the years
1
we've been
year?
dealing with 1 year, we had 16. The other years, we've had anywhere from 10 to 14 kids in the course, which again, if it, outside of a course that is part of the pathway for like a business pathway or an arts pathway, where it would be some, you know, some type of a pathway sequence that was a part of, or an advanced placement course where a student was able to get college credit for completing the course. We typically do not run courses where the enrollment drops below 15.
So what was the sequence then for someone taking non-AP? They would take,
Well, the only students that can take calculus, whether it's AP or non-AP, are seniors. And that just simply deals with the sequence.
so then are they
The
taking,
student would take algebra 1 in 8th grade,
okay,
geometry in 10th,
right,
algebra 2 in 11th, pre-calculus, algebra 2 in 10th, pre-calculus in 11th, before they'd even be eligible to meet the prerequisites for calculus in 12th grade.
so
And again,
pre-calculus
that means
is,
it's their 5th math credit, which exceeds the state's requirements anyway in math, which is 4. We obviously strongly encourage our students to take 4 credits of math in high school, including senior. But that, again, you're looking at a bunch of the electives that are available to our students that run the gamut from advanced to college preparatory.
so we have pre-calc and we have AP pre-calc.
Correct.
And so pre-calc is staying intact.
Yes, both pre-calc and AP pre-calc, because those are courses that we feel strongly prepare students for college-level math and do form that foundation. What we also found through our analysis is that very, very few, we're talking about 2, 3 kids per year at most, and in some years it's been less than that, that took non-AP pre-calc, that were in regular pre-calc in 11th grade, try either calculus in 12th grade. So really, whether it's non-AP or AP Calc, almost all of those students have drawn from what used to be pre-calc honors is now AP pre-calc. So that pathway is there. And for students that are, so if almost all of the students are coming out of pre-AP calculus, the logical next course after pre-AP calculus is AP calculus, if they want to continue that pathway. If not, they can take advanced topics in math and they can take AP stats. There are plenty of advanced pathways available to them for the dozen students that actually have been taking the non-AP calculus for the last 5 years.
Are non-AP pre-calc numbers really low?
Say again?
Are the non-AP pre-calc numbers, are they low?
There's a solid enrollment in regular pre-calc because,
Okay.
again, you've got a lot of seniors, and some of those are seniors.
Right.
Because keep in mind, not all of our students do take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and some of the students that take Algebra 1 in 8th grade will take an alternative math class in 11th grade and pre-calc in 12th. It's not unheard of for students to take topics or statistics in 11th grade and then come back and take pre-calc in 12th grade, in which case AP calculus or non-AP calculus isn't even on the table for those students. So again, it's something we can take a look at, but we did a lot of close looking at the data, and we're talking about a dozen students or so who would have alternative options available to them that would still provide appropriate challenge and preparation for college level math. And of course, they can take AP calculus, and if it's challenging to the point, they can elect not to take the AP exam, but still get that honors credit for completing the course. And they'll get challenged with that level of math that will provide them with the course content and coverage needed to be successful in college. Sports marketing, last on there, is being retitled to marketing principles and practices. That is something where, because it is now going to be dual enrollment with Long Island University, it actually combines elements of sports marketing, which were in the course, with other parts of and facets of marketing in general, including some of those elements of fashion marketing that were covered in the fashion marketing course that won't be offered. And again, that will be a dual enrollment course through Long Island University. Okay. And finally,
Thank you. Okay, so for 26-27 students, we required to provide 4 elective course options that they will be equally satisfied with, having included in their 26-27 schedules. The more data we have to begin with, the better the scheduler works, quite honestly. And we need to get that out there, that when a student lists an elective as a choice, whether they list it first or whether they list it last, there is equal possibility that any or all could end up in their schedule. This will provide the flexibility and development of the master schedule needed to optimize our offerings while still ensuring that each student receives a program aligned with their interests and schedule needs. Discussion of the entire scheduling process and selection of the 4 elective options will take place during each student's 26-27 scheduling meeting with their counselor. As was mentioned by the ex officios, our guidance department will be meeting with our grade levels the end of this week on Thursday. They will be meeting with our 9th and 10th graders as a whole, and on Friday with our juniors, again as an entire group during the extended home base, to go through this again very specifically to let them know what the process is going to look like. They're also going to be letting them know that for the first time, we are going to be using Infinite Campus to allow students to enter their own elective requests through the student portal. They cannot manipulate or adjust the required courses that come through either directly through their counselor or that were made as recommendations by their current teachers. But in terms of their electives, they will be able to do that independently. They'll be able to adjust those up until the point where we cut that off. And that way there, we do feel like we're going to be able to encourage those conversations at home, where students then can enter those elective choices in and have those dumped directly into the walk-in scheduler, which is what the counselors use to make sure that everything is prepared and ready to go for next year. So harnessing the capabilities of Infinite Campus is something that we've also been looking at. It's a very powerful program that we don't necessarily maximize all of the functions within. So this is an area that we've been looking to expand. We did run it out using a few students who we knew we could kind of work with to make sure that they did not have the ability to adjust anything other than those elective courses, and everything worked properly. So again, we're hoping that by allowing the students to be able to do that from home, that will get more options in there as well for them.
Any questions?
I just want to add that these are all very well and carefully thought out early on in the school year by district administration, working with staff, went to the curriculum council for review and discussion. There were at least 3 meetings in curriculum council talking about the course catalog. And it was a challenging conversation. Nobody wants to remove anything. But the fact of the matter is that we've added great courses in a period of declining enrollment. Cybersecurity, freshman financial literacy. We've created some circumstance where if we want to meet the objectives of the strategic plan, which is really to keep kind of the core of what we have in those opportunities for electives, that was kind of the charge. But with all of that said, none of these are like incredibly urgent, right? So like even you had some questions about the about honor roll. That is not incredibly urgent. It's a great recommendation. However, if we want to come back and take a look at it, that doesn't have to be implemented for next year. That could be further review and go on the next year. And the same thing with the courses that have the low enrollment, the redundancy between AP Calc and non-AP Calc. At the end of the day, if they're left in the course catalog, it'll just mean that some of those courses just won't run. Like they've been in the course catalog, but they just haven't run because they become, I'll say, obsolete due to lack of student interest. So they could stay in the course catalog. The effect would be they just wouldn't run, and then you're left with you are always left with the 4 or 5 kids who get a no for something they thought they maybe were excited about in there. So I just wanted to put that caveat there. They're very carefully and thoughtfully done by Dr. Palicelli, Mr. Piazzi, Mr. Meinster, and everybody else. But again, nothing urgent that can't be.
Yeah, listen, part of our adaptation to the new environment, I think we're sitting at 150 students on average. It's trying to provide as much choice or opportunity for all the students. And at the senior level, I could see where some kids want to pull back, but it's the challenge and struggle of ensuring that we run as many electives as possible, and you need the student headcount to do that as well. So I appreciate the creativity. I think I know where you're going, trying to encourage kids to take a little more rigor in their senior year, maybe not rigor, or maybe just to fulfill their day with other electives that they may have not considered. But I think I think we definitely need to consider it. It's definitely something I appreciate the curriculum committee coming back with. I know it's a balancing act, so appreciate the guidance on that. And obviously dropping the low running courses, that makes sense. The artificial intelligence, I'm sure that'll be well spoken for this year.
So the only thing that I definitely am going to speak on behalf of Mr. Piazzi, because I know he needs to know this, is that as he indicated, guidance will be having their meetings with the students later this week.
Okay.
If there are going to be, right now, the course book as proposed does not include those electives in it that we indicated. If that's going to be changed, then we would need that direction and guidance tonight so that we can update the course offering book to make sure that it correctly reflects what is available when the guidance comes.
Can you go back to that slide then?
Can you go back to the slide that has
Yeah,
the
just
5
gonna ask you to
classes?
back up then for a
And would
minute.
you differentiate
Thank you.
between the classes that ran and did not run?
We did run non-AP calculus this year with, I believe, 12 students.
Correct.
It is currently running. Again, if we were looking at, the criteria the way that we are, a course like that would not run next year with the same number of students because it would be below the 15. The only reason that we ran it this year was because without having clarified that process, we felt that it was inappropriate to pull a course out that we had run with low numbers before. But we are getting to a point where really we do need to reflect on that and make sure that we're placing our students where they are most appropriately going to be supported.
Is that district-wide as far as, because I know there's some other classes when we got the readout, I don't remember when we got it, but there was a readout of the courses, electives that were running with 4 kids, 6 kids. They were like AP classes, ceramics, or whatever. But are we following that now for every class?
Criteria that I mentioned earlier as the exceptions, that being those that are part of a pathway.
Right.
And those that are part of the ability for a student to get a college credit and experience at the college level, that we are not yet at the point of having, because again, the Curriculum Development Committee discussed exactly this structure and those exemptions. I would not feel comfortable coming here tonight to you to say I would be comfortable making changes away from those two, because the committee felt that we're not ready to have that conversation yet. It's one that we may need to have in the future about, do we need to get to a point where if a course only has 5 kids, it's a singleton, and it's the only AP art class that we offer, do we not offer it anyway because there's only 5 kids that want to take it? Right now, we're not at that point, and that was not something that the committee recommended we consider. We could certainly do that going forward, but yes, with those 2 exceptions of it being part of a pathway and part of it, or a college-bearing, credit-bearing course, yes, if it was under 15, we would be looking not to run them next year.
I'm sorry, would you mind, so you said non-AP and we ran with 12?
So benchmarking, I don't think we ran this year.
Because we didn't have enough room? Okay.
Website we absolutely did not run. Spanish one we ran with 4 or 5, and I've got to double check on Wall Street.
Yeah, I don't think Wall Street ran either this year. We will double check that for you, and I will tell you, fashion marketing, even if it is fashion marketing, website design, and Wall Street, whether they ran this year or not, there have been years in the last 5 where they have not for under enrollment. And again, it was more along the lines of, just like with the non-AP calculus, we had not had the discussion here or had any direction regarding a course that has 12 or 13, and do we run it or not. So we erred on the side of caution for the students and have, in advance, since we put it in the book, since it had 12 kids, we ran it.
Is there a risk to, at the end of when guidance counselors are talking with students, to having an asterisk next to some of these courses that we may not be able to run based on enrollment? I'm sure you've done that in the past.
Yeah, so that's been our standing practice.
Right.
Is that, every time, the students are always told, if a course has low enrollment, it may not run.
Right.
That's actually right in the course book, that always has been.
So I guess my biggest concern is the student that's currently taking pre-calc right now. And then next year comes and they don't have AP calculus. If they're on a track for applying for a school, whether it's, a business degree or a STEM degree, you would think that a STEM degree would be AP, but are they losing out when they apply to schools because they don't have that as an option and they don't feel like the AP level is rigorous, it was too rigorous for them?
Our non-AP calculus is clearly understood by not the college level. That's why it doesn't get college credit, and it's not affiliated with.
I just mean it being accepted to schools. Like, do they look at the transcript and raise some concerns?
Find out. Certainly a student that took AP pre-calculus did well on that and doesn't take a calculus course will have no detriment to their ability to get in to a math-based program. Obviously, if they are looking to be a math major or an engineer or anything along those lines, they would be strongly recommended to take AP calculus because that's what the colleges are actually going to be looking for.
Okay.
Whether or not they'll look at a non-AP calculus and say, okay, that's something that we would, that means that the kid tried to take a calculus type course, that's up to the individual school, I couldn't tell you. But I do know that if you're looking to go into engineering, they're gonna wanna see AP calculus, if there's a calculus on it.
No, not engineering. I'm thinking more business. It's my understanding that some
Business,
business
they're probably gonna wanna
schools.
see stats.
It's my understanding that business schools are looking for
Business
calc.
schools mainly look for calculus. I know I changed my major from international business, even though I self-studied intro to business and microeconomics at Suffolk. Most of my schools still wanted me to see calculus, and that didn't fit my schedule my senior year. So I changed my major to a lot of schools to English, saying pre-law. So I would say regular, and I know I'm not a math person, I definitely would have excelled more in regular calculus. So I feel like only offering AP Calc and not regular could actually hurt a lot of kids that, like Ms. Teppenhart said, want to go into business, not something crazy like engineering or whatever, something like that, but just like regular business.
It's hard, the enrollment's low, I would almost like to see it stay and,
10 to 12 kids that actually
right,
do that.
right.
That's what it is, 10%.
So, you know, again, we
Yeah.
wouldn't be having this conversation if there were 20, 25 kids taking non-AP calculus,
Yeah.
because then the numbers would
But
justify.
I wonder how many kids, like, I mean, I don't know, this is like a bigger question then. I wonder how many kids like me, like, I wanted to take AP
Right.
calculus, or regular calculus, but it really didn't fit my schedule with
Right.
macro and, like, AP
Correct.
macro, AP spent, like, a bunch of these other classes. I wonder if if it's a scheduling issue.
But that's exactly, and you're right,
Maybe because that
and that
wants to
is,
take it
sometimes it
anyway.
is a
10 kids
scheduling
in it.
issue, and that's exactly what the issue is
Single
running into.
period.
As our enrollment continues to get lower,
It's also,
the number of students available to take a given class gets smaller.
Yeah.
And then what winds up happening is, the more of these electives that you keep in the program, the thinner you're spreading everybody. And the problem is, then you wind up with a lot of courses that are running really, really low, and in some cases, some courses that you might feel are more important will be the ones that get bumped out in favor of ones that more students chose to take, but are not going to be as useful, as it were. So you're a perfect example with that, is that you wanted to take non-AP calculus. There were other courses that you found to be more valuable toward your pathway. And so therefore you had to make a choice, and that's exactly what you did. We can leave these courses in here. There'll be choices, but again, the last 5 years have shown consistently that the non-AP calculus is going to be the choice that the students drop first over other courses, because all that we've seen get into those classes, when all is said and done, is 10 to 12 students. And at that number, you know, the choices become, take one of the other options that are here, take another option altogether like macroeconomics, and that's where students seem to be trending, and that's what's faced, again, that's the data we use to basically look at this to say which ones we have. Yeah.
So the other piece, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds with scheduling minutia, but when you're talking about scheduling a senior schedule, if you're already having to eliminate period 1 and 9 for any singleton, because we know a senior is you know, when posted with the choice of either coming in late or taking this elective class, 9 times out of 10 they're going to come in late. So now we're having to schedule these senior classes between periods 2 and 8. When you're talking about fewer and fewer options, where a few years ago we were running 3 or 4 sections of macroeconomics, now we're running 2 or 3 sections, now it gets even spread thinner. So now you have more opportunities for classes to conflict with one another. You squeeze that schedule even further, like for some seniors who come in after 2nd period or leave after 7th period, now I really can't run those singleton senior classes 8th or 9th period, because now they're really not going to run. So you're talking about trying to schedule within this much smaller window, whereas for my 9th through 11th graders, I can equally distribute between 1 and 9. For seniors, I really have to remove the bookends, push it to the middle, and try not to have the conflicts that you ran into. So that's where it really gets very complicated.
It's a conundrum. It's a continued conundrum. I'll use that as my big word for tonight. And the conundrum is what, you know, the curriculum council has met, you all as administration have met. The decision before the board tonight is, do we take your recommendation and start to reduce some of these courses that potentially won't even run anyway because there's lack of enrollment? Or, you know, do we take the advice or just keep it in and see what happens? If it's low enrollment, they're gonna not run anyway. So
I really appreciate that this is timely, and I understand that, but I do think that there's one additional piece of information that we need. And is there a group of kids that are majoring in business, let's say? The only reason why I'm saying this is a guidance counselor said it to me, so I just want to double check on this. Is there a group of kids that are looking to major in business in which this is, and look, if we don't have the numbers, we don't have the numbers.
So maybe, Ms. Tepinaro, maybe the advice then is, can we leave the non-AP calc on only that one, and you come back to the board and let us know?
But I think Mr. Lockhart's suggestion of putting an asterisk and saying that if it's below this amount, we don't run it.
We're not
We
running
already
the course.
have that in the book.
Yeah,
That's
I
already
think
there.
that's,
I would then look, based on this conversation, listening to the students that have spoken here tonight, listening to the board and your responses to this, You know, it seems to me, and I feel that you agree.
Yes.
We will put non-AP calculus back into the course book for this coming school year. But with the understanding, as is already and always has been the process, if we wind up back at 12 kids or 10 kids, it will get dissolved.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
As has been our practice. Well, again, not for that course, but we will dissolve it because the students have alternative options that they can pursue. And look, if it populates at 16, 17 students, then there you go.
Yeah, here, the challenge.
I'm not informed enough on it. I just am concerned that it might limit people that are pursuing business and if they're not, it's not just preferred, but they're not looked at at all.
I almost would love you to put in the course book beyond the star, asterisk, whatever it is, that this course may run later in the day. If you're signing up for this course, it's running later in the day. No, I mean that.
Or first period.
Or first period.
I don't, it's not a punishment. I don't know why we wouldn't run at ninth period.
I guess.
Run at ninth period.
We're running out of not only periods, but we're running out of options as a district for electives to run. The reason the administration and curriculum council are taking this to us is, we looked at, Jim and I are part of the curriculum, and we could see where course enrollment is highly dependent on time of day. Mr. Palazzi, you said it best. So kids don't want to stay beyond fifth or sixth period, so they're running out of here. That's a problem. They don't want it first period, they don't, so we're trying to accommodate time schedules, rigor, I'll call it rigor, what kids want to take and don't want to take, what's, important or not. And then we're running into low enrollment in sections that really should run. So it's a challenge. At some point, we're gonna have to say no. So what's the no look like? I think that's the question for the.
I want to add as well, and this is probably not a popular thing to say, but it's also, right, a fiscal decision, right?
Right.
It's twice as much to run 2 classes of 10 or 12 than to run 1 at 24.
Right.
And so that is something that,
Of course.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Mr. Pugliese, could you just, for whoever's watching and today and tomorrow, for parents, so on Thursday and Friday, guidance counselors are gonna come through home base, depending, right, 9th, 10th, and
Right.
11th, 12th?
We're actually, we'll have an assembly. So
Okay,
the
so it's gonna be a full
9th class,
assembly,
yes,
okay.
We'll move in together. We'll either be in the gym, well, we'll actually be in the gym because we're not going to displace SRO rehearsal. So we'll be in the gym, the 9th and 10th graders. The counseling staff will be in. They already have a presentation ready to go that walks them through the basics of scheduling, making sure that they're hitting their requirements, knowing what the process is, taking a little bit of time to walk them through the new scheduling piece where through the student portal they'll be able to enter their electives. And then starting on Monday of next week is when the individual meetings with student, parent, and the counselor will begin to take place.
Okay, thanks for that. It's nice to have that
So I
picture.
just want to make sure.
Whoever's
is the board-
watching.
Is the board on board
Whoever.
with having administration continue to run the non-AP calculus course? I think that's the question.
I think with a minimum specified and held to.
Okay.
So Mr. Meinster's saying that we ran it with how many kids? So I think that,
I'm sorry, not to cut you up, but I think we need to be consistent with all courses. I found that document that showed last year's courses and this year's courses, and there are a lot of classes. College accounting had 11 kids in it last year and has 12 kids in it this year.
But college accounting is an AP, is a course that gets college credit.
so there's
It's
those
a dual enrollment
caveats.
course.
Okay. I mean, there are a lot in here. I can find more, but it seems like, you know.
We'll review through that, but you will find, looking at that almost all of the courses that did run with lower numbers
A pathway.
fall into one of those 2 categories,
Yeah.
part of the pathway or.
Okay, I mean, Wall Street last year was 21, and this year it's 15. So you said that the last couple of years was low.
Again, we can keep
Yeah.
Wall Street in there. The thing is, Wall Street's numbers are declining because there are other business classes that are picking up that content. But again, looking at this, I would certainly say, well, fashion marketing definitely, because it's being absorbed within the marketing principles and practices course, is something that I do not anticipate would get more than a handful of students, based on the numbers and what we've seen. So,
Is there also staffing certifications that, like, maybe a staff member is retiring, potentially other staff members don't have the knowledge to run the class? Do we take that into account or no?
No matter what, we will have at least one business teacher that is
Okay.
business certified.
That could do Wall Street or
but we
fashion
do that for
marketing.
our business program.
Gotcha.
So that one we have to have. So website design, fashion marketing, and Spanish 1 are all courses that I can tell you right now, historically do not have the numbers to run next year. You're asking me based on the discussions we've had and the numbers, and Those are the three that would definitely come out of the book next year, just simply because they don't have the numbers. And
That's
have
a
not had
no-brainer.
the numbers.
That's a no-brainer.
And we would keep AP, non-AP calculus, and I guess Wall Street we would keep in, although again, my
Well-
bet's gonna be that it probably won't meet the criteria, but we'll keep it in.
Well, my only question then is, then where would Wall Street's content be covered? Just make sure that's
Wall
accentuated.
Street's content is covered through 3 other classes that we actually offer. One is financial, literacy.
Would those details be in the presentation for the students to see or not? It's probably too,
Discussions with the guidance counselors when they're having the scheduling meeting.
yeah.
Because if a student has an interest in business, the guidance counselor will go through the entire business program with the student and the parent. It is individualized to the specific interests of the student. So yeah, if there is an interest by the student in taking business courses, they'll run through the whole business program and talk about, this would be the sequence that you will take if you are looking, if business is what you're interested in, here's what you're gonna take in 9th grade, here's what you're taking in 10th, here's what you're taking in 11th, here's what you're taking in 12th. And they will run them through that.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question? Did it come up at the curriculum, any meetings recently or within the past couple of years? I haven't been on it in a couple of years. This shift of colleges looking more closely at individual courses since the change to not emphasize SAT scores. So in other words, it went when the option to submit SAT or not submit SAT presented itself to students in more recent years. Has there been a shift at the specific courses that students are taking, and should that influence our look at this?
So 2 things. I think, good question, Ms. Anderson. Being on the curriculum committee, it sounds like there's a shift back to those SAT and other scores. Since we have ex officios, I'd like to ask you, in your college application process, not to put you on the spot, but was
Most of the
SATs,
schools didn't
ACTs
require SAT scores, but, I mean, I sent all of
They
my schools
don't?
my SAT score because it was, my SAT was fine, so I sent it.
I heard that starting next year that most schools are gonna require it. I heard that from my cousin who is an undergraduate. Like she knows people at University of Michigan.
Yes.
And they are going to be, as long as a lot of other Big Ten schools, they're gonna be requiring SATs, not either SAT or ACT, not both, but one of those.
I would just recommend going to college, so having gone to college fairs, I've been asking that question, and I've been getting kind of mixed signals, depending on which career you were picking. So
Mr. Lockhart, do you have
I would
anything
just
about
say to
that?
parents,
I don't know,
I would just
Mr.
say to
Lockhart?
parents, if you're involved with college,
No, seriously.
college career fairs and going, asking that question, because that's an important
Yeah, no,
question.
my understanding is that folks on the curriculum committee believe it's coming full circle, Katie. It's coming back to those being not only just a requirement, but something that the students need to spend time on. Jim, do you have,
Yeah.
Mr. Lockhart? do you
No,
have-
that's the trend that we're seeing too, is that
I have something to add. A lot of schools, when they release their admission stats for this cycle, kids that submitted their SAT scores were more likely to get in, especially
Oh,
at
interesting.
Auburn. There was, I think on the application, it was like you're more likely to get admitted if you submit your SAT scores.
Okay.
colleges like to be able to say that they don't want to pay attention to SAT scores, and it makes it incredibly difficult to distinguish between students when you have grade inflation the way that we do across the country. Tons of students are coming in with 4.5, 5.0 GPAs, and SAT is the one opportunity for
Standardized,
students to
sure.
distinguish themselves.
You need apples to apples.
That's a good
4
point.
years of
Pretty
honor roll.
much the only thing they've got there. That and the fact that a lot of colleges will look at strength of schedule. They want to see what level of courses you're taking, and then they also want to see what extracurriculars you're doing.
Yeah, it's a competitive environment. And having that leg up, I guess, by having SATs is an additional measurement, right? Or metric that the school will use. But I'll just take it full circle back to the course offerings. I think that ultimately, we have to make choices at some point. I think if you want to try the non-AP, I think the board is supportive of trying the non-AP calc this year. I think the Wall Street, I'm a business person myself, I'd say collapse it into the other 3 courses, but I'll leave that up to the board.
Yeah,
If you
I
wanna
think that
accomplish
makes
it.
sense, Mr. Sheridan, but I also think that, Mr. Lewis brought up a really good point. He's seeing some inconsistencies. I think the rationale that Mr. Meinzer points out is
Yes.
pretty solid to me. So if it's something that is on a track that they need,
Yep.
then it, you know, they run it, and if it's not, you know, then they have the opportunity to cut it.
Is there a risk to that when you have 15 students that want to take calculus, and then in August, we find out when it is placed on the schedule, and then it goes under 15?
Yep, that's another risk.
Would not be August, but it would certainly be in June. We run the master schedule, and I'll jump in.
Well, that's.
Don't tell them how you make the sauce, don't, you know.
Yeah, no, and that is definitely something that we have been working on over the last few years, is to avoid the manipulation of a schedule simply based on the period of courses being offered.
Okay.
Now, again, notwithstanding those very legitimate circumstances where there is a need for either late arrival or early release, those notwithstanding, we do see an incredible amount of shuffling that goes on after we release the period by period schedule. So everything was fine when it was just, these are your classes. But the second it was seen that this is what it now looks like in a 9-period day, now all of a sudden change needed to happen. So our plan is to make sure that the final schedule is released to students and their parents well before the end of the school year, so that any changes can be addressed with the counselor before the start of the summer. Unless we're directed otherwise, we still would not be at that point releasing teacher name or the period and the day that the course is being offered. Because again, notwithstanding those very specific circumstances where there's a defined need for either the late arrival or the early release, I really feel like that should be irrelevant to the rest of the process. So that's where things get very challenging. Once the actual 1 through 9 comes out, now all of a sudden, you know, there's some
Tremendous push.
Yeah.
And that does lead to, so let's say, and we've, for the last few years, parents wanted to schedule earlier, so they got the list of courses by June 1st, right? So now you've gotten a letter that promises that you're going to get fashion marketing. So now we come to the fall, it's been very hard to say, oh, we told you in June these courses are going to run. Meanwhile, over the summer, 8 kids, oh, I don't want fashion marketing, I want to take this instead. Now fashion marketing has 5 students in it, but the student's been thinking for the last 3 months, oh, wonderful, I have fashion marketing.
Or because it's 9 period.
We're all parents, so we don't want to be taking that away from the students either. So that is definitely a concern. If I could come back, so the Beacon program, we can't run it, the master's is an issue, so that is done. We'll table the honors discussion, come back a little bit, going from 4.5 to 6 for now, get a little more data, so that won't be something we do next year. That could be the following school year that gets into place. We will run non-AP calculus and Wall Street and not the other 3.
Correct.
Because of low enrollment. Did I miss anything?
No, thank you. I know this takes a tremendous amount of thought and many, many meetings, and the decisions are made with a lot of thought and care. I just think that they're complex, and
Look,
we appreciate it. Thank you.
The curriculum council had cold feet for anything. These, believe it or not, these were baby steps. These were
Yeah.
baby steps in the course catalog. But I certainly understand. I know I appreciate the sentiment, how much work it is to sort of think through what are the
Thank you.
potential options for the board to consider. But these were definitely baby steps.
Yeah, and I will tell you that the Curriculum Development Committee has very healthy debate about these things. These are
Yeah.
not, those of you that have been served on that committee as board representatives are well aware of that, but just in general for public understanding, that committee has had some very, very tough dialogue and discussions on some very, very important issues. And the conversations have been thoughtful and reflective, and the decisions that are made out of there are reached as a consensus of a lot of back and forth often. This was certainly no exception to that. Again, this is not something that they took lightly. They understood that, and there was a lot of debate about this going back and forth during the meeting. So, I just want to appreciate their work and
Sure.
them for what they do.
100%.
Absolutely, but I appreciate too our students contributing to the discussion. It's so wonderful and helpful, and as a board, for those of us who aren't on the curriculum council and who are participating in digesting this for the first time,
Sure.
we have to synthesize and go through the process that you've been having for months and months and months, and it, you know,
Absolutely.
we're just trying to catch up and not to undermine the work, but to catch up, you know, and
Yeah.
and certainly hear from our students.
I appreciate
and-
that, Katie, thank
yeah.
you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate that. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting, I did want to do a shout out to our maintenance and grounds team. I'm sure that they had a very busy weekend and beginning of school. So I
Tremendous.
meant to do that at the beginning of the meeting. So Glenn, please, for our facilities, folks, make sure that our
Will do.
grounds team is aware.
Will
The
do.
buildings look great. Just like share that with everyone in the public as well. Thank you for all you do. Next up, we've got votes and resolutions. First one is our approval, our January 6, 2026 regular public meeting minutes. May I get a motion, please? Jim and Katie? Any discussion or questions on the public meeting minutes? All in favor? 6?
Nope.
No,
Oh, yeah, right, sorry, excuse me.
Abstain.
5, 0, 1. Thank you. Next up is our approval of our December 2025 Treasurers Report. May I get a motion, please? Jim? Second, Katie. Any discussion or questions on the Treasurers Report? All in favor? 6-0. Approval of our CPSE, CSE, and 504 meeting summary memo dated January 14th, 2026. Can I get a motion? Henry, second, Katie. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? 6-0. I've got two Board of Education resolutions tonight. In this section are 2526098 through 2526099. Okay to take these as a block? May I get a motion? Henry, second, Katie. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? 6-0. I want to thank our PTO from Miller Avenue for donating the memory plaque in memory of our former student, Don Riccardi. Very, very nice donation, and thank you for that. I'm sure the Riccardi family is very appreciative. It'll be a plaque that's located in the Miller Avenue Playground in memory of our former student. Okay, next up will be our curriculum and instruction resolutions. I have 10 of these. This section includes 2526100 through 2526109. May I get a motion, please? Jim, Katie? Any discussion or questions on these?
Yeah, I just had a quick
Yeah,
question.
please.
Mr. Meister, are you able to talk a little bit about the district's guidance for how we support athletic and extracurricular students to travel to different events?
Sure. So we have some processes in place for our out-of-state and overnight trips that apply to both athletic and to our competitions and our extracurriculars. In general, the district covers any registrations and fees that are associated with a trip. District covers any staff chaperone costs associated with the trip. The district does not cover any costs associated with meals or food for a trip, and the district does not cover the costs for any lodging for a trip. For athletic events that happen outside of our region, off the island, district will cover the registration, chaperone fees, and the cost of transportation in the amount that would be if that event were held here on the island. And then any of the additional costs that go beyond that, that's incurred by the team, the parents, and/or fundraising, and any combination thereof. For regional, state, and national competitions, and trips of that nature, the district will cover the cost for the registration for the event. They'll cover the costs associated with chaperone coverage for the event. Lodging, food, and meals are solely the responsibility of the parents and/or any fundraising efforts that are associated with those events. And that covers how those trips are handled.
Thank you.
And then outside of sporting events, like something like DECA?
Yep.
Would that follow suit?
Same rules apply.
Okay, thank you.
So for the wrestling duels,
Correct.
Section 11 is covering the lodging for the athletes?
It is just not the district covering it. If it's covered by Section 11, that's great. If it's not, then it's through fundraising, through donations, or through the parents.
For Section 11, we'll typically.
It says it here, so I'm just.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
I was just going to say that.
Yep.
It says it in this.
Thank you.
I think we took motions. May I get an approval on this? 6-0 for this section. I did want to wish our cheer team good luck this weekend in Florida for their cheerleading, for the National High School Cheerleading Competition. And I wanted to wish our wrestlers all the best for the dual state championship. I think that's next week, right? Excuse me?
And DECA.
Yeah, and
DECA
DECA will be in
also.
March, so obviously, yes, for our DECA students as well.
Are you guys going? You are, Becca? No.
Very good. Okay, continuing forward. Next up is our human resource resolution. There's one of these, 2526110. May I get a motion? Henry, second Jim. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? 6-0. Like I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the meeting, just wanted to let everyone know that was our memorandum of agreement with our SWRTA members tonight. Next up are our business and operations resolutions. There are three of these, 2526111 through 2526113. May I get a motion, please? Henry, second Katie. Any discussion or question on these? All in favor? 6-0. Ms. Curtius, are there any communications?
No, there are none.
Okay. Next up, wanted to give Mr. Poole the opportunity, discussion on potential UPK aid. I know there's been some updates. I think they're positive. Maybe some of our legislative, actions.
Some of the advocacy
advocacy, I'm
has
sure
taken
people at
root.
home-
So it does seem, if you are paying attention to the governor's, now it is just the governor's executive budget. We won't have the final New York State adopted budget until April.
Yep.
But it seems in the governor's budget that the minimum per pupil allocation for UPK is going to be $10,000.
Okay.
The question still outstanding for us, and I've tried to get a firm answer on this, how many seats is that going to be? I've gotten some feedback that maybe it's 82 to 95, and I've gotten some feedback that maybe it's unlimited seats at $10,000 per student. So I don't have a firm answer for that, but it is good to hear that this has become an option and make itself into the budget. So I just want to bring up to the board that as a result of that, I do believe it makes sense to go out to RFP for an external provider of UPK services. We've done that in the past to see what is available. If we get some results in and the RFP holds past the adoption of the New York State budget, we might be able to, if that funding holds place, secure some seats for external vendors in the community.
Sounds reasonable, yeah.
I wanted to thank past and present members of the legislative committee. I mean, this has been, the discussion of pre-K funding has been on one of our agendas and goals over the years. So, I'd like to think that the group had a big impact in trying to get our legislators to kind of support this. So, again, long time coming, and hopefully it actually comes into effect.
We'll have to see. If I have some more details about the numbers and funding for the next meeting, I'll give a little bit of update, but in the meantime, we'll get a RFP together, reviewed, and try to get one out there.
That'd be great.
Mr. Poole, is that grant typically, do you only get a peek at it at the final? So that grant title for the UPK, do you ever get an indication of what you're going to be receiving beforehand?
Typically, in years past, the $513,000 has been in the state aid run. So if you look closely at a state aid run this year, you'll see a number of $8,000, which doesn't make any sense to me, because if you divide that by 10,000, it's 16.8 seats. So that number is not clear yet, but if you look at the bottom of the state aid run, it says that the minimum aid allocation is 10,000 for students. So we do have some support through Questar BOCES. I did get somebody fairly high up who gave me several numbers, 82, 95, or maybe unlimited for that. It's a substantial amount of money the governor has put into her budget proposal to support what would then become truly universal pre-kindergarten, right? If our enrollment, Mr. Meister shared enrollment numbers a few weeks back, 135 to 145, I think, something like that. So that would provide the school district 1.4. Will it provide the school district 1.4 million? To be determined, but I do know, going out for an RFP over the last couple of years, we have not gotten that number of seats as a response. You may recall, I think we went out last year in advance of trying to, well, what is the number? Maybe the number fits in 5,400. The number averaged really a lot more than $5,400, but how many seats was it? Maybe it was under 70, under 70 seats. At its height, when we offered UPK, we never had more than 90 of the potentially 135 families put in for the lottery.
Sure.
Right, and there was some years where, well, the 3 years we ran it, where we started off with 90, we did the lottery, and by October, people had dropped out, and we got to the last person on the waiting list. It is the state's UPK program is a little clunky. A 5-hour day is a little bit, you know, not the easiest thing for families to manage, right? You know, so as opposed to so
How many
more
sections did you run?
We
Was it 4 sections?
we ran 4 at the most. Do you remember 2 in those 2 rooms at the end of Wading River on the south west part of the building, and then 2 were at St. Anselm's.
Okay.
Yep.
And just to clarify, maybe I missed, I'm sorry. You had mentioned that, and knowing years past, we had to offset some of the cost with the grants, or?
We did. We used
is
the
that-
federal
is that
COVID relief
potentially, or are
funding.
we thinking that this increase will cover some of those?
We're gonna
not
see
sure.
what comes back, because now everybody knows the cap is $10,000, right?
Yeah.
So now everybody knows that. So we will see what comes back to the school district. But I think that's the
9999.
I think that's the
Change,
first
99
step
cents.
is what's available from outside vendors
sure.
and what are their prices going to be,
Right.
and then if that it doesn't come back in a way that makes sense to us, then we'll have to regroup.
I think it's an important step to take, so I'm glad that we're actually going and doing it this early to see
Yeah.
what it is, so, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Poole, for that update. Next up on discussion, we have been wanting to have a discussion from the Space and Facilities. We had received a recommendation to do a bond study for the districts. So I just wanted to open up to the board, have discussion about this, what this means. Should we pursue it? Should we pursue a potential bond study with our district architect? I'll open it up to the group.
I'll go first.
Go for it.
Thank you. I did prepare a letter because I had thought I was going to miss the meeting in December, so I appreciate you guys postponing this. Basically, it's just a few paragraphs of statements that we have made over the last year or so. To begin, during the recent Miller Avenue building walkthrough, it was reported that the kindergarten enrollment has increased over the last few years. With limited space, the building has had to be creative. Assemblies in non-traditional spaces, book fairs in the hallways, and the library split in half with part of it converted into an art room. Next this year, we opted into state free lunch program, and participation has increased each month. Miller Avenue does not have a cafeteria, so meals are prepared at the middle school and transported 3 times a day. That adds operational strain to a system that wasn't designed for it. Additionally, like Mr. Poole just mentioned, the last few years we have declined an annual $513,000 in UPK grant because we don't have enough space in our elementary schools. A primary reason we shared with the community last year. The state has increased UPK funding, and with the declining enrollment in our secondary schools, particularly at the high school, and increased funding, it's worth revisiting how and where we could deliver UPK. A bond study could help us explore options, including whether the high school could accommodate the program. Another point, last year, more than 300 residents petitioned the district to explore a bond for athletic facility improvements, including a second practice turf field and turf conversions for baseball and softball. This number represents nearly half of the voters in the 2025-2026 budget vote. We also know that field scheduling limitations sometimes force teams to practice very late or very early, with highlights a capacity issue. In addition, the middle school parking lot is beyond its useful life. We're constantly patching and repairing it, but there's no identified funding for a full resurfacing, expanding capacity, or drainage improvements. Projects like this are typically too large to fund through a capital reserve alone, and our ability to fund these reserves is limited unless we generate surplus funds each year. Also, our buildings condition survey is intended to track estimated costs, completed projects, and proposed future work, but it currently contains known errors and inconsistencies. Earlier this year, a request to correct the document was pushed back because the district said it didn't have the resources. If we're going to have a meaningful facilities discussion, we need reliable data and an accurate plan. It's also worth noting that the cost of a bond study is approximately $21,000. That's a relatively small investment to gather information, explore options, and involve the community before any decisions are made. Last year, this board asked the Space and Facilities Committee to review the possibility of a bond study. That committee, made up of mostly residents, recommended that we move forward. Given some of the concerns we've heard recently about transparency, particularly around reserves and other financial items, it's worth asking, why would we not pursue a more community-involved approach? A bond study is a transparent, data-driven way to engage the community and ensure we're making decisions based on facts, not speculation. I believe moving forward with a study is the responsible course of action. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you.
Mr. Bull, can you talk about Mr. Lewis mentioned it a little bit, but can you talk about the difference between a bond study and a 5-year building
Yes.
condition survey, and also the timeline if we were gonna do a bond study? And then in terms of the current bond coming off the books and when we would have to do that in order for replacing the current bond with a new bond?
Sure. So a building condition survey is a required assessment of your building facilities by the New York State Education Department every 5 years. And that is a process where you are identifying what is it going to take over the next 5 years to maintain what you have. So to repairs to your existing structures as a school district. That's the premise of a building condition survey. Your next question was the timeline of a bond study. I have heard anywhere from I've gotten answers from the architects from 6 months to 18 months, depending on how deep you want to go. I think the last bond study and sort of bond committee to develop a project in the school district was less than a year. I do believe it wasn't quite a year if you were on that committee. But a bond study rises above a building condition survey. It's a bond study is more of a I want to say a strategic look at the school district to move forward, and also may focus on things that are that drive curriculum and instruction change to a change in facilities, where a building condition survey really is, okay, here's our table, take a look, oh, needs a leg, we should replace that in year 3. That's kind of the intent of a building condition survey. Our last building condition survey, we did take some time to talk to staff across the district what some of the enhancements might be. So you'll find in our BCS some recommendations for program enhancements, but typically a BCS from the state, as per what they require, is just, what do you need to do to maintain your facilities so they stay open as a school district. So I don't know, do you have one more question?
I did. When is the current bond coming off the books? And I actually have a 4th question, I'm sorry.
The current bond, I believe the last payment is in 2032. Is that right, Mr. O'Carey? Yes.
So I know that there's some.
2.7 million? Is that the annual, something like that, 2.5?
2.4 is the principal, and that last year, the interest will be minor.
Okay.
And I know there's some talk of Governor Hochul making UPK mandated. When is that proposed?
Yeah, if you read it, you could maybe infer that it will become a required program by the 28-29 school year.
And we don't know, based on that, though, we have no idea what that really entails, other than just offering the program as a school district.
We don't know if the governor's going to say, if you're taking any of this money, you better provide a space for everybody, or you don't get any of it. Who knows?
Yep.
It's still, that's gotta be hammered out, still.
What was, in the past, what was the more economical model for UPK? Was it housing it internally or outsourcing it?
The most economical model was housing it in the scope program was the
Right.
most economical. So they'll come in, you let them use 2 of your classrooms, they provide the staff, and we're just providing a little administrative support, a little bit of support outside, cleaning the classrooms. We provide the furniture, the technology, and they provide the staffing. So the cost for scope UPK, the last year we had it was $5,400, but I know it was $6,000 a student. So it's been very close to the $5,400 allotment, but scope can't even hold that line. But scope would be the most economical. Right now, a UPK classroom has a cap of 18 kids with 1 teacher and 1 aide or monitor in the classroom. So scope this year, I believe, is for a district hosting scope would have 18 times 600 plus any of those other soft costs like lights that we're not, all those things like that. But definitely the cheapest model, if you can outsource to a scope to come into your building.
Other questions, comments? So, Mr. Lewis, I appreciate those comments. One thing I think about is, the difference between a bond study versus the building conditions survey. I'm more recently on the Space and Facilities Committee and have been part of that now. I think the district's done an amazing job in setting aside funds that we've used for capital projects. You sat on the original bond, the renewal project that occurred here, and it's done so many great things. I think the difference is a bond study for me at this time would be looking at nice-to-haves or new things, new initiatives that the district should take on versus what I'll call maintenance and upkeep. Those are two different things. And I guess the question would be, based on your notes or others, what do we feel our district is really missing at this point? Is there something we're really missing?
Not to interrupt you, but the previous BCS wasn't just maintaining existing facilities. It had those items that we talked about, potentially investing in, a cafeteria at Miller Avenue, or paving at Prodell. It didn't just have replacing a chair or a bookshelf. So I think maybe it was a blend. But I think we all kind of discussed that document. I'm just not sure if it was meant to deliver the information to us as it was created, because I think there were a lot of errors with the financial pieces on that. So I don't know if it's a blend of a BCS and a bond study. That's something that we can utilize, but we're talking about a study to create a plan for the future of the district. We're not. I don't think any of us are here today are talking about increasing taxes, because we have no idea what's going to come out of this study.
I hear you. I think if we okayed $21,000 toward a bond study, I think in a way, it's still suggesting that the district look ahead and think about things that are new taxpayer-funded initiatives. You just mentioned a cafeteria, so for example.
Yeah, I think we need to be proactive. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I know. I think in general, the good question is, we've seen the numbers. It's been great that we now have the universal school lunch program, but we're running in the red. Our lunch program runs traditionally in the red. I could ask Mr. Curie, but I know it's going to be $400,000 this year again. So building a cafeteria just adds more expense to the district to build a cafeteria for a program that's losing money. That's how I think about it. So having a bond study, do we even need a bond study to think about a cafeteria? Probably not. We could think about it.
Okay.
And decide.
You can. Yeah, you can think about it. I get it.
No, I'm saying it's a combination of wants, desires, and things that we're going to fund with our taxpaying dollars.
So we can go back and forth. At least I can go back and forth with multiple people. But what was the purpose of asking the Space and Facility Committee to review this as a community-based committee, that we wanted their input? They provided input, and I've been on the Space and Facility Committee for 10 plus years. And that was the first time that the board had asked for their opinion, received their opinion, and then kind of just threw it away and said, well, we think you guys are wrong, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, maybe that was something I missed, because unfortunately that April meeting, that vote took place, I wasn't at that meeting. The next meeting, we developed the 5-year capital plan, which was just recently presented to the board. I only had one resident, I thought, in that meeting that actually mentioned the bond study again. So if there was such interest of the Space and Facilities Committee, they would be at this podium knocking on our door saying, hey, I think this is really something the board should consider. We're not hearing that.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is a lot of people are not attending the committee anymore, because it feels like it's wasted time to be on that committee.
Well, that's a shame.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, that committee has done some really good things for the school district.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what I know the committee had talked, what was the rationale for the committee's recommendation for a bond study? Do we know what that conversation was?
I'm sure there are notes. I mean, it was last year. I mean, we can probably pull it up, but I wasn't the only one there. Henry was at the meeting. I think there's maybe some other people in the audience that was at that meeting, but
I was at that meeting.
One of the things, I don't want anyone in our community to think that the board doesn't appreciate the work of committees. I just think it's, we saw tonight some parallels to work that could be ongoing for years. I know that the discussion of those courses was a discussion when I was on the curriculum development committee a few years ago. Everything in the district moves much slower in schools, in the state, in the government than sometimes we'd like. And you know, we saw tonight, the committee made a recommendation to us that we, I think, had a thoughtful discussion about, and ultimately went against their recommendation on a couple of items. So I just don't want to, confuse the board being thoughtful with additional information that we have that the committee doesn't have necessarily, in terms of, you know, in a similar way, like the board having this discussion about the curriculum. I don't want to conflate that with the idea that we don't appreciate the work of a committee.
100%. I think ultimately what the discussion was about tonight, do we as a board want to pursue having our district architect do a bond study? That's really what's on the table. We'd obviously go forward as a resolution. We just heard the time frame. It's about a year. We've got good information, all of us.
Just to clarify that, Tom, it's not just the district architect, it's community involvement. It's not just BBS doing this in their office. It's having meetings, it's engaging with the community. It's more than just BBS creating a document.
So,
Just to clarify that.
Mr. Poole, when Mr. Lewis says that, does that 18-month include that process as well? Or would that
The longer process would be the district architect would initially do a study of existing facilities.
Okay.
And then that would go to a bond committee, which
Okay.
might be what Mr. Lewis is talking about.
So that
which would then
18-month encompasses
take a
that.
look at, it could involve the community walking through the buildings as part of that.
Okay.
But if there's a greater community engagement, then my thought would be that there would be a bond committee that would be a part of the development of the bond study, and they would be involved in a very granular detail. And that would maybe be a board ad hoc committee that ran for a particular purpose to help, finalize the bond study and then review the bond study, consideration of the district for what the recommendations would be for a potential bond project.
Generally speaking, if our bond is rolling off in 2032, what would be the timing that the administration, if it was open to the administration to think about a bond study, when would a bond study be held?
When would it line up with, when would the first,
would line up with
when would the first
bond
payment line up with the debt coming off the book? Mr. Arcuri?
Sure. I'm going to answer that in two parts. 2029 is our building, is when our next building condition survey is needed. Our debt's falling off the books in 2032, so you would begin planning between 2029, 2030. So you would most likely roll in a building condition survey with a full educational facilities study. We keep calling it a bond study. Bond is the way to generate the debt in order to pay for it. So the purpose of the bond study is where are the deficiencies inside of the educational facilities, and where are the improvements needed inside of the educational facilities. So ideally, we would tie I would suggest 2029 is when our BCS is due, so that's calendar year 2029. So you could do the study in 2029, wrap in a educational facilities study with that, and have a finished document so that you can market it to the community in order to take on another project that would actually replace the debt that would be falling off the books in 2032. Hopefully I answered
just
the
to clarify
question.
that. So you said that it's due in 2029, the next BCS?
Yes.
So if it's a 6 to 18-month process,
No, so
potentially.
a
Okay, I'm
building
sorry.
condition survey?
I know you said, but we're saying the
is not.
BCS is,
You would tie into, you would have the building conditions survey done in 2029, and then add to that any type of educational, instructional improvements that traditionally would not be part of a building condition survey. Traditional building condition survey is reporting to the state what is the health and welfare of the existing educational facilities, and what is a priority 1, what is a priority 5. Priority 1 is a year 1 need, what is a year 5 need. Year 5s are traditionally weaker versus a year 1 need. So you would piggyback, start your building condition survey, and then attach to that a educational facility study to see what are the areas of improvement you want to make to that district.
So Glenn, sorry. When we piggybacked off of the last building condition survey to include the additional enhancements that were recommended by the Space and Facilities Committee to get costs on and a workup on, what was that called?
Let me change that for you.
Okay.
The Space and Facilities Committee had absolutely no role in changing what was part of the building condition survey. That was then choice made. There was $7.5 million inside of district capital reserves. So then at that time, it was, again, go meet with the building principals. Let's see what type of educational needs they are going to come up with, and then we brought to the Space and Facilities Committee a combination of health, safety, building condition survey items, coupled with educational facilities upgrades. Good night, guys. Thank you. Sorry that it's late.
Thanks again.
And so they had the opportunity, the Space and Facilities Committee had the opportunity to see not just building condition survey items, they also had the opportunity to see educational facilities upgrades. Miller Avenue cafeteria has always been on it. Middle school parking lot, middle school second egress, second synthetic turf field. They've been in front of the Space and Facilities Committee since November of 21, I think. All of those items. So they've always been part of it. So we kind of blended it together then because there was funding available. And administration, I also think the Board of Education played a part in that also, because there was a presentation done November of 21 about a second synthetic field. There were parents talking about a cafeteria at the Miller Avenue building. So it was a blended process then. This time around, if you were to follow the same sequence in 2029, rolling into 2030, you have debt falling off the books. It would be extremely silly. There would have to be dire financial consequences here for this district to say, let's just let that debt fall off the books without taking on additional debt that the taxpayers have already factored into their monthly bills. So I want to assume it is a given that the district is going to take on additional debt at that time in order to replace the debt that's falling off. So that's why I say 2029 calendar year required building condition survey, piggyback off of that to do a full educational facility study, tie them in together, and at that point have a cohesive plan. Hopefully I answered the original question.
Yeah, no, you did. That's exact. I think that's fiscally responsible. I think that is a, it's been a conversation ongoing for a long time. And we look at our budget annually, what that debt service payment is, and the projection out into when we're going to really need to replace that debt. So
I think it's important to not to also not forget 2017 capital reserve had $7.5 million in it. 2020 capital reserve had a little under $7 million in it. When that funding went to the Space and Facilities Committee, made up of community members also, the list of projects was never less than $30 million. And if what came out of it were middle school casework, lighting, ceilings, they had the opportunity then to prioritize something different.
Was it?
The choice out of that committee recommended to the Board of Education, even this past May of 2025, the Miller Avenue cafeteria did not make the cut. The Miller Avenue addition a couple of years earlier did not make the cut. So there have been improvements presented at that at those committee meetings, and there was never a consensus to bring a cafeteria forward, to bring a second synthetic field forward, when there was available funding. So I think now, when it was kicked back to the Space and Facilities Committee to say, hey, let's bring it back to the committee, there were some open building condition survey items, and based on those items, based on the list of items based on the list of projects that we were unable to complete using capital reserve funding, was the committee recommending taking on additional debt. And it was at that point where they came back with saying, you know, the building condition survey is older, we would like to see a more comprehensive plan. And that's where that's what the meeting minutes will reflect from that time, when they came up with recommending to the Board of Ed additional studies.
To get a different dollar figure?
To get a different list of projects, to get a more comprehensive list of projects. Did I answer the question,
Yes,
Mr.
thank
Lewis,
you.
or?
No, I just had a question. I know you mentioned a lot of the larger projects, and I know the last bond, there's a magnitude of scale that kind of attacks projects. I mean, I'm in the business, Henry is as well. You know, it's hard sometimes to say you have $7 million, you can do 30 projects, or you can use half of that and do one project. And then when you go out,
100%.
and when you go out to bond,
Mhm.
when you add 35 million in work, sometimes you're getting discounts on some of the
Economies of
work.
scale,
Economies of scale, correct.
100.
So I think
100%.
that's why some of those larger projects were maybe passed up, only because
Sure.
we want to spread our money as far as we can and do the ceilings, do the lights.
Mhm.
And we know that maybe one day, if there is a bond, we can get better numbers on some of the larger projects.
Definitely.
Okay.
Agreed.
Mr. Curie, the original bond value was 30, what?
33. Well, there was
48 million.
$49 million
had progress
worth
stated.
of work finished. However, there were reserve dollars used, so we only went out to debt for
2000, you're talking about
$33 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
49 million.
49?
Yes.
Yeah, but we use prior years.
That's debt plus the prior year's state.
Prior
aid.
year state aid, okay.
I think it
All
was
right.
11.9.
And it's important to point out that particular list started
How
at
much, huh?
$100 million worth of work.
Yes.
It's important to point that out. That was also a whittled down process.
Mr. Arcuri, the idea comes up a lot that, you know, we are not able to offer our students as much as other districts. Can you speak to the specific percentage of state aid that we get back on our projects versus other neighboring districts in our immediate vicinity?
Sure.
Thank you.
There are two parts to that question. Shoreham is able to offer whatever they want to their students if they're willing to cover the cost. So for every dollar we spend on a aidable project, we get 34 cents back over a 15-year window. Where you take a neighboring district, they get 74 cents back over that same 15-year window. It doesn't preclude us from adding anything to our district, assuming the taxpayer wants to cover that burden. Districts a little further south, they get 90% back. Also, there are districts that can only 15 and 18% back. So we get back 34.5, 35% inside of the building aid ratio. I want to say out of the bond, out of all of the work that I've done here, $110 million worth in 16 years, I want to say more than 90 to 95% of that work has always come back with building aid. Building aid numbers in 2010 were 450,000. They're well over millions now. So we've always used the dollars smartly. But if you're asking why does Shoreham-Wading River receive such a low building aid ratio compared to other communities, it's a very complicated formula question that I am definitely going to only be able to give you a high-level answer to say, based on a formula that has been frozen and static well since prior to 2006. And there was a portion of the plant that had that tied into our building aid number. And when before I joined Shoreham, there was a company that did a full state aid analysis, appealed to the state to get our ratios adjusted. The state acknowledged there was a deficiency inside of our rates and said, we agree there's a deficiency, we cannot correct the formula, but we're going to offer you X dollars as a settlement. So they paid back for a historic claim, but in order to remedy the formula, it's like cutting a piece of pie. If I get a dollar
Mr.
more,
Arcuri, it was a portion of, right, the settlement was
it was
only
a portion of a
So
portion.
that prior year state aid,
It
which
was.
is still a sticking point for me, but, you know,
I-
that's
I-
2005, 2006, so.
I figured that someone was going to say the award was 76
So we got it,
million.
but we
The
didn't-
award was 76 million.
got
However,
it.
the district was told, if you want to receive anything, you're going to take 50% of it, and we will dole it out over a 7 to 8 year window. And that's what they ended up doing.
So we got money.
38 million.
I know, I was.
Yeah, I
bringing
just
up-
can't help it. This is an outstanding school district with outstanding facilities, outstanding student outcomes, outstanding community support, as Mr. Meinzer showed this fall, with an average tax levy right around 1.8% over the last 7 years. So it's been a great run, great programs for students, and yes, do we have everything? There was a bond for a pool that failed twice back at the inception.
I wasn't involved in that one.
So I don't want a pool.
Pool's pool, man.
But I just had to get that out there. You know, we might not have everything, but it is a fantastic school district. With
No,
great
Mr. Poole,
facilities.
I'm intimately connected in the educational community, and Shoreham has a phenomenal reputation. And it just being tied to other districts, I think the programming that we give our children is incredible. I'm incredibly proud of it. I know when we talk about topics like turf, and you look at a school district that has 3 turf fields and ours has 1, that's a point. But there's a reason that happens sometimes, and sometimes it's, you know, I think Shoreham, what we are really good at is balance. And when I look at our buildings, they are safe, they're dry, they're warm when they need to be, and the educational programs, I mean, I'm an elementary person, when I look at the educational programs in our K-5 buildings, you know, they knock my socks off. They're really quite incredible in terms of what we're doing for all children. So I understand when I stand on the side of a turf field, how beautiful it is, and of course I want that for our kids. I just am most comfortable, I think, looking at a potential bond study and supporting that in 2029. That's where I stand. So, you know, I do think, to Mr. Curry's point, the debt coming off the books, we have to replace that with, and when you look at that number, I think we can get a lot done.
Thank you, Ms. Steppenhart.
Mr. Arcuri, the timeline, when you get to a point where you say, okay, the community voted in support of a bond, has to go up to state ed for a certain amount of time. What is the typical timeline for that?
Typical
18 months,
timelines,
right?
from the time the voters say yes, to the time we actually draw, to the time we submit, to the time we bid, about a year. It could be shorter. I mean, we were very fortunate last time. The bond went up to voters January. The decision was made by that Board of Ed to spend general fund dollars in anticipation of voter support. So the second the voters passed it, January 2015, there were already plans drawn to do a number of roofs, the Cunella Field at the time, the tennis courts, library carpeting. So that's always a way to make it actually happen faster, to set aside general fund dollars. That was part of the 14-15 budget presentation, to say we are going to put dollars in to a draw in anticipation to have a quote deliverable to the community summer of 2015, to really show them that their vote is going to give an immediate deliverable to their students, which I think was an instrumental part in helping that bond pass. You know, they had a deliverable very, very, very quickly.
Yeah, so one of the things that I think about a lot is wanting to have as much information as possible when making tough financial decisions, and I think we're going to be headed into a moment in the next 3, 4, 5 years where we're going to have to make those decisions. And what I understand is that a bond study also helps to sequence those projects out in some way, and so knowing at what point we might want to do the middle school parking lot combined with some other project at the middle school compared to cafeteria, for lack of a better example, gives you a sense that's over time. Once you break ground is when your bond payment starts to go into effect. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things that I think about is if we were to the risk or the cost of a bond study is not as great as the value to us to be able to have something in our pocket when we want to make a decision at some point down the line. So when you have a bond study tomorrow and you get this list of projects for a certain dollar value per project, that's not changing significantly over the next however many years. The worst case scenario is that you have to tweak some updates to those costs. Is that accurate to say?
Yes.
So when we have a list of needs from the BCS and a list of improvements that we want to make internally and externally to the school district, then the board has an opportunity to say, okay, let's look at all of these things together and make sound financial decisions for the community, particularly because we don't want to raise taxes unnecessarily for the taxpayer. Then I would say, to Mike's point about community involvement, I'd want a longer runway of a bond committee to be thinking about what do we want to invest in, when, why, and how does that jibe with the financial considerations that we have to make. And not a knock on our school district. I think in the educational system overall, things take a lot of time. So if you can have information available to you that is easy to get, not easy to get, but available to get at a quick clip, I think that's something that we should be thinking about.
Mr. Lockhart, I thought about that a lot because I think the timing does matter. So when you look at where we are now, 2026, and you look at 32, if you're interested in doing a bond in the next 2 years, I think that would be a reason to go out for a study. I think that the most current information it's really important to get. So, that's why I would lean towards waiting to get the most current information, unless you were suggesting that it is possible that we go out to a bond, in a year. But I don't, with, the last Board of Ed's financial update, I don't see that as the move to make. I think that what makes the most sense in terms of our financial responsibility to the community is looking at debt coming off the books and us putting debt then on the books, not when we're potentially operating close to being in the red, that we're then going out to bond for a second bond to the community. So I have some concerns with that. I think that if you're looking at 6 years out for the time where we would be doing that, so when you look at the lining up of the building condition survey and also the most current data to make the best decisions, I think having a bond of 33 million would help us to do some of these projects that we're talking about.
I just want to add one thing in that is a critical piece. We need to begin spending the money in the 32 school year. In order to put it in the tax levy limit, the voters would have approved in 2030.
30?
30, because Mr. Lockhart's point, a year and a half, depends upon where is the effort. We have $2.4 million inside the tax levy limit of a bond payment. We did not do $2.4 million inside of a single year worth of work. We're doing $33 million worth of work in one summer in order to keep the tax levy limit static. In order to revolve that debt payment, I need to do $33 million worth of work inside of a 12-month window in order to take that debt on. That in and of itself is going to be a huge challenge for this district, because that means an entire summer I'm shutting all 4 buildings down. So it's either I'm going to have a blip where we're going to have a little bit fall off the books and then it's going to come back on, or we're going to structure it so that we can handle that payment.
Is 29 too late then?
I didn't say 29 is too late. 29 having the information, but to Mr. Lockhart's point, if he wants a longer quote runway in order to dissect this information out, it could be, to me, putting up a vote in 2030 is fine. I'm going out in 2 years, I'm going to have SED approval, I'm going to have projects designed, and I'm going to be ready to put a shovel inside of the ground, inside the 32-33 school year, and I'm going to take on debt.
Yeah, but I know we had talked about a bond study being between 6 and 18 months. So I'm just trying to understand the whole length of the schedule. Because if you brought up 2029, I think a lot of people were just like, oh, 2029, and that's the BCS. That doesn't really include the community involvement, unless it comes after that. And if it comes after that, then we're kind of late against the 2030 and is getting kind of short.
Mike, I think it's important to go back in time. You guys, when the community became involved, that is after there was a $100 million report done.
Yeah.
Community comes involved after that educational facility study is actually finished. So they aren't part of the initial study. They're part of here is the entire report. Now go and parse how much out of the $100 million do you really want to do? So having it done in 2029 as part of the building condition survey afforded the community a year to do that work, go out to vote 2030, and then I'm ready to put a shovel inside the ground 2032, revolve that debt payment. I'm just saying that is the...
Right, but you would have the project with the committee put together in 2029
Yes.
in advance of a vote in 2030, because you'd want to market it, talk about it, and get to that point. So if you walk that back a little bit further, then in advance of, you need a little more time, right? If you want to have a more in-depth conversation with a bond committee, so.
So Jim, what were you suggesting exactly? When to start when?
My thought was that we have a BCS now, that has some add-ons. I don't think we don't have a bond study. So part of it is that it's a community advocacy element to it too, that we've been approached with the request to think about a bond study from a couple of different areas. So I'm reacting to that and saying, okay, we could do a bond study now. It would give us a sense of all of the potential improvements that we'd want to make. We have a BCS from 2023. We combine those two things and start thinking as a board about what we want to prioritize or deprioritize, knowing the financial health of the district. And so I would like to be able to extend the amount of time that we have to talk about it, that the community has to be able to weigh in on that, and then make a financially sound decision. And I don't think that the cost of the bond study, to do that now is outweighed by the benefit outweighs the risk.
No, I just want to make sure that we're leaning on metrics that really we can value in the sense of course, our community input's important. But I do think that looking at metrics that would come from the most current 5-year building condition survey is an important starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise it ends up being kind of an overwhelming conversation in which people don't have a real granular view of all the parts
Right.
that become the whole. So
Yeah, I see it as a multi-month conversation. Particularly, I mean, I've done my own with my own house prices and how
Right.
much my taxes would increase, and there's a lot of moving parts. And so to fully grasp those moving parts, I think there needs to be quite a bit of public conversation for folks to truly understand what the impact it would be on them.
I think before we have anything like that informed, we need to go back to, it was suggested by one community member, but it's not a new suggestion. We've talked about as a board the idea of having a budget advisory committee, and I think that though there were a few people who were in favor of a bond who spoke a few weeks back, and they personally admitted that they're not as intimately aware of our current financial picture as they'd like to be, that they can say they would like the idea of having a bond and additional fields, potentially also other items that we already have the valuation for. We already have the figure that it's going to become an antiquated number, especially in the volatile state of our current political picture. We have the cost of things completely inflated at this point. So I don't want to spend $21,000 for information that's going to become very, very quickly antiquated. We already have the information. It's 2 years old. Those figures, I would say, are more reflective of what we could hopefully see a few years from now.
I think that's my point. I think I just want to run a new 5-year building condition survey, and on the back of that, then do the community piece with the walkthroughs and the bond study. I think they have to go hand in hand.
And maybe they should. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe the Budget Advisory Committee is a perfect way to discuss the financial impact of a bond and bringing those documents of the BCS, which it sounds like wasn't just a straightforward BCS, but a blend of a bond study and a BCS. Bring all that information and bridge dialogue between Space and Facilities and Budget Advisory Committee so that when residents come to the board meetings, which is awesome, advocating for things that all of us want, it's just a matter of timing and such. Can we all have a conversation that is more informed than the individuals who came here advocating for it have admitted to being?
Yeah, if that day comes, I hope the BCS report that is updated or revised is more accurate than we've seen, because we've all seen errors in the numbers.
So maybe that's something also to consider, but I guess what I'm hearing is that we should probably just table this for now. If I got general consensus, maybe where do you stand? Should we push the bond study for now?
Where are you, Henry?
All right, guys done? All right.
Yeah. it's all
No,
good.
I'm done, but I'm just-
I'm going back to 2015, 2016.
2015 is really
So
taking us back.
predates.
We're going
I'll
over.
try to make this quick because it's already 10 to 10 almost, or past it. Anyway, so when we did this the first go around, the first bond, there was that process that Mr. Arcuri described. So there was a building condition assessment that had already been produced. And I'm not going to say anything different because I do agree with what everybody's saying here. It's a tough decision to make. But I think where I land is the financial. We all have that fiduciary responsibility for the district. Knowing, being privy to it as a board member and seeing, I'm looking at our $89 million budget and how does that play out with all of the uncertainties that are coming down the road. I think it's important to get that building condition assessment first, right? And I like what you said, Jim, about the curriculum piece, right? Because with declining enrollment, our total curriculum process, the way we set everything up, everything from cafeterias to just program planning is going to be impacted by the dollars, right? I mean, the heart of what we do comes from the dollars, from the 89 million that we spend. So I'm a little concerned about that uncertainty. I'm worried that the financial strains that we're going to see, I think we're going to see financial strains in the future. We need to know what that looks like a little bit better. This is not just from my perspective, do we do a bond, do we not do a bond? The whole reason I got on the board years ago was to do a bond. I mean, I got on the board and I wanted to get involved with that and do that. And we did really good work, I think, after all those years. And when I think about it, that's 10 years ago. So people see the facilities the way they are now and go, oh, we can do better. I mean, for those that do remember what it looked like, you know, it's night and day, right, where we are today. And I'm really proud of that, being on the board almost 10 years. I'm really proud of not just what we've done through the bond, but all the extra work that the administration's done through capital, the capital reserves over the years. And all that plays into it, the capital reserve work, the bond work, and then how has education changed in the last 10 years? And how are we looking at how we're educating? All that plays into how we spend our money. And I think that getting all those data points is important. For me, it's not just, do we do a bond or not a bond? We gotta look at it collectively. So that's where I stand. I think that we need to get those other data points still.
So your when is when?
We're not talking about doing a bond or not a bond. We're talking about doing a bond study.
You could,
I'll just clarify.
Yep, and you could do an EPC, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things.
Yeah,
There's a lot of different models. I get it. It's a tough choice to decide, you know, which way to go, but I think we need more data on that.
So just to remind the board, we did authorize a resolution to do an energy audit for an EPC, so that's underway right now.
That's
That's
going to
underway.
come back to you in March for consideration of
So
taking the
we'll
next
have to
step.
make a decision on that as well.
Yeah,
That's
we
an
may not do
upcoming
an
decision.
EPC, right? I
That's got
mean, it all
finances
depends on,
associated. I'm sorry, Henry. I didn't
go ahead, I'm talking over you, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, you know, you're doing that, we may not do an EPC. It may not make sense.
There was a specific deadline that we wouldn't have voted to go with that EPC study if it wasn't deadline driven.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think
was-
that was the solar
It was
impact.
deadline driven. That's what
And
we
no
didn't,
cost
we
here.
didn't
Yeah,
spend
no
that
cost,
money
no, sure,
just
no cost. Good
to,
point, Jerry.
oh yeah, and that it didn't have a cost, but we didn't go forward with that thinking, I wonder how much this will save us, you know, and that's all
The
this,
tax credit
that's
on the
all
solar, yeah.
we're talking, let's be clear, we're talking about, I wonder how much money would it cost to do X, Y, and Z, things we already have a number for.
Yep, we know that.
We know,
We know
there's
these
no
numbers.
variables here. There's no question marks. Glenn has already given us figures on, and could run more numbers on what it would cost to do a bond at X number of dollars.
Do you trust the numbers in IBCS?
They're all conflated numbers anyway. These are numbers that our architect gives as max
Yeah,
values.
listen, in the industry, you want to say 10, 20%, fluff, 5%, okay, but, I mean, the obvious item that really kind of like raised my eyebrows was over $800,000 spent on the middle school fields. And they spent like 8,000. So that's a big difference.
How would you get a completely different number? It's just, then you would have, whatever number we get back from a bond study, we would have to question that too. Is it gonna be under, is it gonna be over?
I think the scope was really gray. So the scope of the $850,000 that was spent and completed, when it wasn't the full renovation. It was some couple yards of clay, let's say. So there was a discrepancy on the actual work that was done and the
Just
cost.
to clarify that, the value that was on the building condition survey was a full renovation of the middle school field. When administration, myself, prepared that for the Space and Facilities Committee, we had checked that box as a completed building condition survey item. marked it for the $25,000 worth of maintenance dollars used to complete a $800,000 line. That was an error. I had shared that with you on multiple occasions. The architect's value of $850,000 was not an inflated number. The error was clearly made by administration, myself, that had marked that as a completed item on the building condition survey, when in fact, we had just done a maintenance-driven rehab of a single portion of the middle school field.
And
So
I
the
agree. I accepted your
it was an error
reasoning
for us.
Well, I guess my question was, at the time when I made the request to edit that document, was that was one particular line item that greatly different, right? 850,000, 10,000 spent. Were there other line items that were identified at a higher cost that the district did in-house for less? I don't know
that there definitely
Yeah.
is plenty of building condition survey items that were done by district staff that came in at a cheaper cost because we did not have to go out to bid for that work. Correct. Certain of it, without a doubt. The whole purpose of doing in-house district work is to complete the scope at a cheaper cost. However, for that one particular middle school project, that was a grave error on our part, the way that it was marked off as completed, when in fact it was a 1/10 of the scope of work.
So for me, I haven't really weighed in necessarily. I think people kind of know where I stand, but I think at the end of the day, we have enough information here. We have a BCS that was just completed not less than 2.5 years ago. We know what some nice things to have are. We would all probably sit back and say we'd love a cafeteria, we'd love to add classrooms, we'd love to add a turf field. Finances are involved. If you go and do a bond study, the indication to all of us is you're gaining information to go out potentially. I know we're calling it a bond study, Glenn. It's more for educational, instructional uses or improvements. It's really to look at what finances you need to support those efforts. That's in addition to financing we already have on the books. I call it like a large HELOC. We have a home equity line on these buildings right now. It's currently financed. Thank goodness for the taxpayers. I think 80% of the tax base, right, pays for these schools.
80% of our revenue comes from the community.
So any funding we need is community oriented. It's community voted. It's no different than the capital improvements that we make annually with our capital projects. It's community voted on. We've been very transparent with the community. We let them know. I think the BCS does a good job of pointing out things that we would like to have. I don't think it's far enough away, or excuse me, I don't think it's so outdated that we don't know what we'd like to have. So for that reason, I don't think we should spend additional money to create a bond study on something we're not willing to act on for new financing. That's my opinion. We're gonna go through the budget process right now, which will give the community hopefully some more guidance. I agree, maybe there should be a community forum after that. I don't know what's gonna happen with education in the future. There may be enough movement on, I don't even know, artificial intelligence, I have no idea. Maybe community classrooms should look differently, maybe constructs of schools, I have no idea. I don't think we have enough information at this point to meaningfully want to go and change direction of what we've been doing. I think we've done a great job. I think this board, although we may have different opinions, the work, the time, the community that we've been a part of, I think we're very fortunate people to be in the position we're in. These are more nice to haves than they are immediate work that needs to be done. If it was immediate work, we'd know about it. These are nice to haves more than anything else. So I'm on the side of punting on this right now and leaving it alone. So where does that put us?
I don't know. I want to do it. I just want to do it when we're going to pay for information that doesn't become bad information in a couple of years.
I fall in the same place. I absolutely want to replace that debt coming off the books with debt going on the books. I personally would love to see a turf field in that. I would. I just don't think, based on what we saw 2 weeks ago, it makes sense to do a bond study and hold on to that information, wait for it to become outdated, or do a bond study and throw another bond to our community right now.
I'm in that same camp. That's three of us.
I still go back to, we're talking about doing a bond study for facilities. And not being on the curriculum committee, maybe I'm at a disadvantage to be able to answer this, but just like you have a bond study, is there something in the works right now to look at program? We saw tonight how on an annual basis, we're looking at enrollment, we're looking at, how people are signing up, we're looking at changes of, is SATs in scores or are they out? So I get it, that's gonna continue, you're gonna have those year-to-year decisions you need to make, but
Just to be clear, they're year-to-year decisions to cut things out.
yeah.
Not what
Not
more
to add
can we
things.
do.
Yeah, so, thanks. So having said that, how does that look going out, right? And that curriculum piece, I think, is an important aspect of what are we doing with the facilities?
It looks like austerity, not imagination with facilities.
A different conversation potentially, Henry.
Yeah, yeah.
Like austerity. We
But,
need a-
but
we
fund,
need a
funding
committee.
things from a bond is very different than funding programming.
No, I think programming is gonna be even more complicated.
But you can't take a one-time
Are
funding
you
source.
saying we shouldn't
and
look at
for-
curriculum, though? Is that- that's
No,
not what I'm saying.
I'm just
I'm not
saying that
that.
impacts our annual budget in a very different way than, installing a turf.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking that. I was
No,
just thinking even
yeah.
space within
No,
the.
I think the assessment is, I feel like the cabinet is having those conversations on a regular basis.
I mean, Tom mentioned it, AI, what is that gonna do to education? So,
What I meant by that is educational spaces. Is there a need to do something different in the future? And in 2020, 2029, or wherever it is, a study of educational instructional spaces might look different than it does today. We have good information now of what our spaces look like, Henry. I don't think we need additional information. I don't think so, not at this point. Especially when we potentially are not willing to take on new debt. That's the question.
Mhm.
If the question on the floor is, are we willing to take on new debt? We're gonna go through budget season, we're gonna find that out quickly. What does the district look like financially? And that keeps our lights on, keeps the curriculum where it is, that keeps the educational program. We've all been real proponents of ensuring our program has the highest quality. And the outcomes are showing that. So, not to jeopardize those outcomes, do we wanna do anything different? That's the question. Do we wanna do a bond study? That's what I'm asking. And I'd like you to weigh in. We have three people who are no.
oh, okay.
Not to
Yeah,
consider
no,
it.
I think the timing's not right.
Okay, so that's 4. So based on that, I'm gonna move on this topic, that the bond study discussion's over. We're not gonna move forward with a bond study. Thank you all for that.
To be clear, I want to move forward with the bond study, not
In
at
the
this
future.
time.
Yeah, not at this time.
I want
That's a better way
the
to say
the
it.
data to be the most current, so
Yep.
that we're replacing debt coming off the books.
I completely agree with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, next up, any additional comments from residents? Ms. Kirschus?
Did you want to speak?
Can you
Can
please-
you come up to the podium,
Thank you,
please,
Mr.
and say your
Williams.
name and address for the record, please?
Way, Shoreham. Again, obviously, I'm very disappointed in the decision that was made tonight. Mr. Sheridan, you are referring to things like a cafeteria, like we're asking for the moon. Every public elementary school in Suffolk County has a cafeteria. We're not asking for the moon. We are asking for another turf field for our kids to practice on, so they don't have to try to practice on crabgrass and adjust on Saturdays to turf. Lacrosse, football, soccer, you're asking all those kids to practice on grass and then go play on turf on Saturday. There are 5 graduates, 2025 graduates, that are going to D1 schools now. They all received training programs this summer. They went down to our field the first week of this summer. They couldn't get on. They couldn't practice. So for the entire summer, they drove from Wading River, past our high school, and went to Rocky Point to train. That's the thanks we're giving our athletes. We don't have enough facilities for them. And we're not asking for the moon. We're asking what our neighboring districts do. They have cafeterias. They have UPK. They don't have accessible and scheduling problems for their athletic teams. We're not asking for the moon. We're asking what they have. They have the same financial uncertainties, rising costs,
Mhm.
as we do. And I don't know if you heard the message at the last meeting. The three people that spoke all said, look, this is what we would like our teachers to have. Listen to us. We'll pay a little bit more if we have to. That woman tore my heart out. She said, I'll pay a little more. We will all pay a little more to have what the 3 districts next door have. We're not asking for the moon. And we wouldn't love a cafeteria. It's something we should have for our kids. Please reconsider.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
And Mr. Mark Paquette, did you want to speak? Okay. Can you come state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Good evening. Mark Paquette, 17 Deer Run in Wading River. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your service to the community. First and foremost, that's the most important thing. I mentioned this the last time. Our level playing field is we all care, right? That's our starting point. What a wonderful place to have a conversation and debate, if you will. I share Mike Williams' sentiment on the bond study for this evening, but I would say I hope it's voted down temporarily and quickly reconsidered in this budget season that comes over the next few weeks. I mentioned in our last board meeting a few months ago, I too drive by Shoreham-Wading River after leaving for 15 years to live in New York City, bring my family back here. I bring my family to go to Rocky Point to use their fields. It's a disgrace. We can do better. What is the cost to the community? What is the cost to the taxpayer? I mean, that's sort of a starting point. Questions I have, I know you can't answer questions this evening, but perhaps as a mechanism to get this out there, what are the potential other funding mechanisms to fund a bond study if perhaps the board can't fund it through our own budget? Are GoFundMes available, for example? I'm in public construction. These processes take a very, very long time. Mike, you know this. To come to fruition. 2032 will be here in a blink of an eye, but what are we doing in 6 years before that to all of these student athletes? My story was I was not the best student. The education system didn't reach me. Athletics allowed me to propel to be a Division I athlete, propelled me onto Wall Street, propelled me to a successful career, led me to multiple master's degrees at UNC Chapel Hill, where I figured out later in life that I was a better student. Athletics carried me to each one of those levels. What students are being left behind. We had a wonderful conversation about curriculum and a real deep thought about which programs to keep on that board. Athletics is on that board. The facilities that we offer to students is equally as important. It's the same as saying, sorry, the classroom lights are a little too dim, but in 2032, that's when things will change. The AI conversation, that's valid. I totally get that. There is never going to be a time where you're comfortable with the outcome 100% of what that study reveals, okay? Technology is changing at a rapid pace. AI is taking over the world, right? Well, turf fields are the AI of about 15 years ago, by the way. So we've allowed these other districts to utilize AI in their athletic community, and we've just said, okay, we'll go to Rocky Point. We can do better than that. Table this for now, please. Don't sit on it for a couple years. In public construction, I can tell you, this will sneak up on us very, very fast. Engage the community, help us understand what the taxpayer level burden is. Understood about replacing debt with debt, but if we're talking $200, $300, $400 a household per year, I think we can take on another bond. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
That's all I had signed up.
Thank you, Ms. Karshis. Okay, it's been a long night, a lot of productive things that we did. Appreciate that, everyone. Appreciate the comments from the residents. I'd like to adjourn our meeting. May I get a motion, please? Katie, second. Jim? All in favor? 6-0. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.